So,
you.
hey everybody, I'm starting this a bit early because me and Skull were having a good conversation.
But
Also,
yeah, but
it's
yeah, like
Skull, you know what's really funny? Like, everybody bitching about, like, oh, YouTube won't let anybody stream the second Democratic debate, and I'm just sitting over here like, don't play the fucking video, you dipshits. That's
yeah,
what's
like
getting you fucking hit.
just do the audio. And also, I like how like Majority Report did it, where they're doing it on Twitch, and Twitch is not fucking hitting as hard. And they did like a trial balloon with like a burner account or whatever to do a stream of the actual video, and that fucking burner account got hit. So it's like, yeah, you just can't stream it
Yeah.
on YouTube because YouTube is like cracking down on that shit hard during this time.
It is really sad that like a Z tier fucking YouTuber like me can figure this. Then again, like I've had to like this is my 50th fucking account on this fucking website, so I know at this point like how to fucking scam the fucking system, as it were.
Oh, speaking about scamming systems, I'm still trying to figure out if this check I got from Travelers is actually good or not.
Is
So,
there anywhere, like, can you check at a bank and be like, hey, I'm not sure about this check?
oh no, it's not like, oh, I don't think I can cash it. It's more of I'm technically on workman compensation right now for a broken finger. And the agent I talked to, we were talking about benefits, and from that conversation, it made it sound like they're going to cover, the medical bills, which cool. Hey, that's awesome. I have coverage, make it work, everything's good. Then like a week later, I get a fucking check in the mail for like, pretty much like a paycheck worth of money, and we didn't discuss this. So I'm like, and I checked on their website, and it says I'm technically under a temporary disability or something. And it seems very confusing. So and I've left a message with my fucking agent, and the agent hasn't gotten back to me. But it just seems fucking weird. But anyway, that's completely off to the side. But yeah, but going back to the individual you brought up from Fox News.
Yeah, Brian Shepard, the
Yeah,
one
Brian.
good guy.
Like I said, I have infinitely more sympathy for that because you could argue naivety, obviously, because he hasn't opened up a history book and actually looked at like the dark shit America has done. But
Well, again, his key word there is we're supposed to be better than this, not that we are.
yeah, but that's the thing though, is that he has an image of America that doesn't do this, which I can respect more than fucking these like cynical fucking assholes who deal with foreign policies, like
Yeah.
the world's a dangerous place fucking bullshit.
Jake Tappier's your fucking Chuck Todd's.
Yeah, like we just have to accept that we're
Don
gonna we're gonna
Lemon.
be we're gonna make allies with countries that are gonna fucking shoot like missiles into school buses. Like that.
By the way, I must be going like fucking voice deaf or something. Because like I could not tell, I didn't know fucking Don Lemon was there last night. Because again, I was just listening to the audio.
Oh
So
wait, Don Lemon, he's the air mail moderator on that
yeah,
board, right?
here's the black guy
Yeah.
that like all the white nationalists think is like fucking Louis Farrakhan reincarnated, even though Louis
Right.
Farrakhan isn't dead. Yeah, like oh my god, there was like this white fucking nationalist earlier in the Destiny Discord, and he was just like, Don Lemon wants to ban white people from traveling, and it's like, really, like this is why white people are going to lose the fucking race war. You know
Yeah,
that's right. Like you're fucking scared of Don Lemon.
the guy, like it's him, and I can't remember the name of the air
Don
individual.
Lemon is basically if Carlton from fucking Fresh Prince of Bel Air became a fucking news anchor.
Well, no, there's another black guy. I can't remember his name. I don't know if he's CNN or if he's MSNBC. Kind of bald on top, glasses. He was a moderator for I believe like one of the 2016 presidential debates.
Yeah.
I can't say the name off the top of my head, but he's also like another guy who's completely not milquetoast to my knowledge. Like I have not heard any fucking like outrageous or like big things from them. It's just he's just some dude. So I don't understand this entire like he's a secret Black Panther member or something.
Yeah, like they like yeah, it's just again like you were literally, this is like being like we need I can't even fucking think of a comparison because Don Lemon is like you're basically scared of the human equivalent of a fucking like wet rag.
Yeah, like all that tells me is that, dude, if you actually run into anyone who's actually like, I don't know, a black militant, you would fucking shit yourself.
Yeah, like you would not know how to do like.
So,
It's just yeah, it's.
but yeah, like I was going on before we went live. Yeah, the Democratic Party, to me, I'm sadly kind of really agreeing with Trap House, is that it's just the Democratic Party seems like a defective Borg. Like any type of force you put it near, it will try to fucking like it'll just try to cut a deal with it and go halfways with it, no matter what. So like if you just took them and literally just put them like right next to the Third Reich or something,
Well,
yeah, they were like,
Monster.
how about we gas half the Jews?
Well, Monster. That's also why Brian Shepard's still there.
Oh, what did Brian Shepard do?
Is to give the fucking channel. It's like, look, we have like. Oh, like Monster brought up like Chris Wallace and how he has like half a brain, but like he's really only there to kind of give the network like some like undue rep points because it's like, look, we have like one somewhat decent person.
Well, yeah, like Wallace, if I recall correctly, Wallace, while he has said some things I definitely disagree with, he is one of those individuals that they quite obviously keep on. It's like, look, see, not all of our fucking like representatives or like talking heads we have on this program are completing our shills for one thing. Because Wallace has been like one of the few personalities on Fox News that's actually, at least kind of voiced a dissenting opinion. But also, if I recall correctly, he was one of those fucking guys that oh fuck, what candidate was it? Was it Warren? It was like some type of like town hall thing or whatever that Fox News was hosting, and he got all fucking indignant with the actual candidate about because the candidate
It
brought
might
up
have
the
been
entire
one.
fucking well, the candidate brought up pretty much like bad news agents and them being propaganda, and I think Wallace is the one that piped up and pretty much went that that's an unfair comparison or whatever. Like he got kind of indignant because it was weird. It was like one of these fucking like a sleazebag for this like Fox News like trying to defend Fox News's like record.
Also, I don't know if Brett Hume is dying or something, but like I know his Brett Hume like recently is trying to be like, hey, I'm not a complete like monster.
uh, yeah, if you're starting to try to rehabilitate your career, yeah, that might be you might be dying at this point. I don't know though.
Or maybe it's just like he the fact that like fuck, what's his name? What's fucking Bowtie Boy's name?
Oh, Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker. I can't remember Tucker Carlson. What a tragedy.
Every day when he wakes up, like he pays a little Hispanic guy to come walk over and like flip his bow tie like the prop
Yeah.
on a biplane.
I think like I don't know if this is like fucking I don't know how many people have like stated this or whatever. I don't know if this is like a popular or mainstream opinion, but I really see like Tucker Carlson as like the like fucking proto whatever you want to call it, like and like to what we have now with like fucking Dave Rubin and like Steven Crowder. Because like I always remember back, like every time I see Tucker Carlson, I always remember back to like the Crossfire thing with
Yeah, I was about to say
him and
like
Jon Stewart, and like the whole reason he stopped being a liberal and a Democrat was because like the fucking liberals made fun of him.
yeah, like with Tucker, isn't Tucker like kind of maybe the information I have on Tucker is pretty old, but wasn't he doing some weird like trying to call like anti-capitalistic fascism or something?
Yeah, he's kind of been up until like him landed the job at Fox, like he was kind of like a just basically throwing shit at a wall. Like there was a moment, I don't remember how many people remember this, but like there was a moment where he tried to be a shock jock.
Oh God, I hate to imagine that.
You know what's also funny?
Wait,
Guess who else was trying to be a shock jock?
well, I was about to say like,
Current Vice President Mike Pence.
oh god, I hate. I would hate to imagine him as a shock jock though.
Oh,
That would
there's
be.
videos of it up on YouTube, and it is just the worst.
It's one. Those are some pretty buried videos. It's kind of like Dave Rubin doing stand up. It's just like it's the stuff no one wants to see anymore. But no, fucking like Tucker trying to be a shock jock. I could see Shapiro being more of a fucking shock jock than fucking Tucker.
I mean, yeah, Shapiro's already basically a lot of these internet again, like a lot of them did borrow a lot of the tactics from like shock jocks. And I guess like Glenn Beck is like the blame for that because he kind of proved that that was like a very successful path.
So, also, quick question: is Glenn Beck resurrected at this point?
He tried when Trump was elected to try to like rehabilitate himself, but now he's just he's gone back and now he's even worse.
Well, I'm just wondering if like, because I know there was like some rumblings, because like the Blaze went under, like the Blaze went under, and every
Yeah.
time I hear about Glenn Beck, I see a physical image of him, and he's getting more and more bloated. I don't know what's wrong
I think
with
the
him.
main thing he does now is like he guests on like podcasts and like I think he does like speaking bullshit.
Okay. So I guess, I mean, like, at least he's not in the same boat as like Alex Jones, who's been like vanished to the nether realm or whatever.
I mean, to be fair with Alex, like that's what happens when you get sued by
Everyone.
basically everyone you've ever made up lies about.
So wait, is Alex Jones like a reverse Icarus? Like
Kinda.
he wasn't trying to fly to the sun, but due to him getting more and more popular, he like kind of like ass first into it.
Yeah.
Because like Alex Jones would be still doing the Alex Jones show. He'll still be doing his normal shit if Hillary won. Like, I don't think anyone would care.
That
Like,
probably was the beginning of the end for Alex Jones. I mean, I know a lot of people could probably argue, like, no, the lies about Sandy Hook were the beginning of the end of Alex Jones, and honestly, I probably wouldn't fight you if you said that.
well, to be fair though, like I don't think I didn't see that coming because like Alex Jones is he can't be the only shithead who's gotten away with saying horrible shit about victims.
Oh no, it's one. He's the richest and the biggest profile
Yeah, the
and
biggest
most
target.
visible. Because I mean, like, look at all look at the dipshits who are like, oh, fucking the Boston Massacre was actually it was staged by aliens.
You see, that's like a last podcast on a left type of topic that'll be fun to go into.
That would be like the weird, obscure, like not like the mainstream fucking like just the because again there were like because I don't know if you ever saw like any of the graphic photos from the Boston Massacre, but there's like one somewhat famous one of like one of the dudes who lost his leg and like his leg is literally just like shreds.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked
and
up.
and 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 people like they see that and they see like like the bone in the middle and they're like obviously this guy's like an android because a human leg wouldn't do that and it's like shut up.
Well, like there's the other fucking silly like conspiracy theories too. Like my personal favorite is 9/11 it being like a death ray or a fucking like a subterranean nuke. Like those silly ones.
Yeah,
Like those are fun. But yeah, like yeah, so let's see, Glenn Beck, Alex
I'm
Jones.
gonna go like full like it's just to the logical conclusion I wish like the logical conclusion of the 9/11 truthers were like the World Trade Towers never existed.
It
It was
was,
all
it,
bullshit.
yeah, it was. It just turns into an art house film at this point.
Like they were holograms or something.
Oh God! Oh my God! Imagine that conspiracy. Like, actually, no. The World Trade Centers were actually destroyed in 1993 or whatever. Like the first Trade Center bombing, and they were quickly like
Yeah.
holograms were replicated up until 2001.
Yeah,
It,
why isn't there ever like a Mandela effect for the fucking trade center?
I don't know. Though that is kind of funny. Something I found out about the memorial for 2000 for the 9/11 is like on one of the corners, like a little plaque they put for the victims of the 1993 bombing.
Yeah,
But I thought that was
because
kind
they
of
did
neat.
have like a plaque there. They did have a plaque there originally for him, but you know, that kind of got blown up and lost.
Well, see, like I personally think that's kind of cool because that's something we fucking like like our knuckle dragging us Americans would fucking forget about is like, oh, we've got done with the 2001 fucking like memorial, and it's like, what about the 1993 saying? It's like, who?
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What happened in '93?
yeah.
Is this the Tiananmen Square meme?
But
That's not the Tiananmen Square meme. That's like 1988. Nothing happened in 1988 in China. Nothing.
so so that fucking yeah. So the first debate, pretty much, literally, whoever fucking decided to leave the camera on Tim Ryan's face after fucking Bernie did the entire, I wrote the damn bill. I don't know who decided to do that, but you
Oh yeah,
could
did you
not.
see his? Did you see?
Yeah, I saw it. Fucking
Did you see Tim Ryan's campaign slogan?
yeah, you don't need to yell.
He is literally the Jeb. He is. He is worse than the Jeb Bush of the Democrats.
Yeah, he's
At least with Jeb, we got the Comrade Jeb memes.
yeah. Tim Ryan's gonna completely just fade away into the background. Like no one's gonna remember him at these debates. Same thing with fucking Hickenlooper. Same thing with fucking Delaney or whatever the fuck his name is.
I will always remember Delaney.
Yeah, but the only reason why is because we made a joke about us mishearing his fucking carbon catcher technology and just like carbon suckers. Like that's the only reason. Like he's not gonna be remembered for anything else.
Yeah, he's only going to be remembered because goddamn fucking Elizabeth Warren was basically a thuggy for fucking Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom and Kali Mad his fucking heart out of his chest.
But like literally, this dude, like, the only thing he's gonna be remembered for is pretty much what majority report pointed out. Is this is a guy that if we were like passing Medicare or Medicaid or whatever fucking like giant thing in the time period was passed out, he'd be one of the naysayers and saying no, that's just too much. I don't know what you're talking about. We can't have that much structural change.
He would be like he go back like he'd be like one of those naysayers of like we can't build all this infrastructure for railroads.
Yeah, see, the entire thing is though, and I hope Bernie goes more this route, is that entire fucking stab at him of being him being like an insurance person, like him actually starting insurance companies and him profiting off of that. You need more of that. Like that was a good stab because he didn't have a counter for it. I don't think. Like maybe I'm just appealing. Maybe it's just appealing to my personal, feelings on the matter. But like airing out these fucking people's dirty laundry like that are just
Yeah,
conveniently left out. Yeah, that's pretty effective.
I really wish Gravel was on one of these nights instead of just
Any of the
hey.
fucking the useless ass moderates are here.
Yeah, and it's not even like oh they're polling because like Gravel's like polling at like irrelevancy as much as I enjoy him, but like at least Gravel would say different shit. He'd have some idea again. Like as much as I know everybody's like Bernie won, but I would make a real good I and I agree with that, but I think Elizabeth Warren had the best moment of the night overall when she was like, I don't know why you would run for
Oh yeah,
president
yeah,
by saying like what we should and shouldn't do.
yeah. That's pretty good. And again, I think a lot of these moderate assholes don't have a defense against that.
Yeah.
I
Like
am kind of
look
hoping.
at Delaney. He basically just started repeating himself.
Well, yeah, because I'm gonna be the reasonable one. And fucking like what Bullock? What is that his name? Fucking the psycho. I'm sorry, I'm still fucking kind of flabbergasted that entire. I might have to rewatch that again and make sure I'm understanding his position. But that entire like pretty much we need to reserve like a first strike like policy on any nation that we feel is like a problem or whatever. Like pretty much America is like the empire that's weirdly fucking kind of almost like schizophrenic with like the rest of the fucking pro left bullshit that these people are parroting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna co-op all this left sounding shit from fucking like the two actual like left standing candidates, you might want to make sure like it all like there's a lot of synergy between your different positions because that didn't feel like he didn't like get to crib the notes off of like Bernie or something when it came to like his foreign policy.
We don't have to yell. You know what? I'll give Bullock at least this. It gave me joy when I realized he sounded like Phil Hartman's fucking caveman lawyer character from SNL, which I contend is one of the most underrated SNL sketches of all time.
I don't like him because his tone and the way he was speaking reminds me of a lot of dumbasses at my former work that think they would think they know what the fuck they're talking about, then they would fuck up.
I really don't like that Gravel grew that mustache. I really hate the mustache.
Um,
It's gross.
yeah. Also, God help us, fucking Bernie yells.
Also, too, like, and a big reason Gravel should probably be on the stage, if for nothing else, he was from a red state. Like he was senator for fucking Alaska, which I'm pretty sure is never. Like I might be wrong on this. I might have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure Alaska has never voted for a Democrat.
I don't know. To my understanding, like how many fucking large urban centers are in Alaska outside of Anchorage?
Nome, and that's it. Maybe Pedophile City. I don't think it's actually called Pedophile City.
Wait, look it up on the map. Oh fuck, it is actually just literally called. Oh no, they wouldn't be that plain. It'd be more like a hemophilia like paradise or whatever.
And now I'm thinking of the fucking joke from The Simpsons of like, okay, and now you're gonna be sent to Terror Island. Oh no, it's like, oh, don't worry, the name's a misnomer. It's actually more of a peninsula.
But
Because yeah, there is an island because Alaska is so sparsely populated with its like where people can live and shit because of like the sex offender laws we have now. Like, there's literally no place in like these in any like town or shit like pedophiles can go and live. So it's just like fucking throw them on this fucking island.
so has anyone actually looked at any of the not Medicaid for all or Medicare for all programs that these fucking moderates are recommend are
Yeah,
like this is my plan, this is my plan. Are,
it's just basically fucking like Romney Care or fucking like like fucking I forget who it was. Was it Ryan or Delaney? I think it might have been Delaney who was talking about like the mixed approach of like let's have like some private stuff that people can buy through the government.
oh, actually, speaking about Delaney, that actually reminds me. I am actually that would have been interesting to see if actually Bernie fucking countered on that little statement that Delaney said after his, like, when his mic was getting cut, where he's like, your position's coming off as like anti private sector,
Yeah.
and
And
it
Bernie,
would have.
I really wish Bernie would have been like, yeah.
And thing is, those
I
I
mean, he
don't.
kind of did. He kind of did when he was like, it's not a business.
True. Also, I haven't checked with the talking heads today, but I'm wondering. So, how much of them are actually getting on Bernie for his like demeanor?
Oh, everybody's loving it.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
So,
even like the fucking even the shills have to admit like Bernie fucking won.
well, no, I was just wondering if they're doing it because like majority report brought it up, and to be fair, from what little I have seen of the talking heads, I can kind of agree that I thought it was going to be more of like them going after like, oh, he was yelling, he was being rude.
I mean, there was some of that, but God, I just love the fucking team up of him and like fucking Elizabeth last night.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty good. To be fair, what's stopping them from
It's
one
like
of
the
them?
one. It's like the one good. It's like the one good scene from fucking Last Jedi when fucking Kylo and fucking Rey team up against the Imperial Guard.
So what's keeping like Warren or Bernie like just saying fuck it and just them combining their platforms?
I mean, they could, but like they do differ in like key issues, like especially on economics, because like Bernie is a bit of a protectionist on some issues. So, and like I know Warren is like vehemently against fucking protectionism in all its fucking stripes.
Okay, because I know like I know fucking for example, Chapo's brought it up is has brought up the entire like because they're pretty anti Warren over there.
Yeah,
Like they don't like her at all, pretty much. I and I can kind of understand it with some of her voting record because well, if I recall correctly, wasn't she a pretty bad fucking corporate lawyer at one point?
yeah.
So like, yeah, that's pretty fucked up in comparison to Bernie. Um, and I do hope Bernie does make it, but it would kind of suck if literally they kind of knock each other out of the light and we end up with like I don't know, Buttigieg, like fucking Buttigieg is fucking the candidate or whatever. But right now, I'm actually more curious if I wonder how bad Biden's gonna go down.
I don't know. I don't know. Other than Harris, I don't know if anybody's gonna have the fucking balls or big dick energy to go after him. By
Well,
the way, we should be setting it up because it's
yeah,
7:30.
yeah, okay. So I'm going to get this cable moved, and I'll start setting up everything. Okay,
Let me
so
check. Let me double check. Like, see who's on tonight to see if any of these fucking losers would theoretically go after Biden. Let me. Well, we actually got a really good like latency tonight because I just accidentally switched over to the fucking thing and like I immediately heard myself.
oh, that's good to hear at least. Okay, close, close, close.
Where's all these fucking losers? You know what? Maybe Gabbard might go after fucking Biden.
Well, it's just I'm actually really surprised Biden hasn't fallen more apart than he has. If that makes sense. Because him being like unrepentant about half the shit, he's pretty. I don't know. It's just like
I mean, here's the thing with Biden. Like, a lot of people are like, it's like the old fucking buffalo or fucking triceratops meme of like, we gotta circle the fucking dumb injured one.
Okay, give me a second because I have to do something.
Okay, I'm
So,
just looking up who's on tonight. God, I don't even like. Right off the bat, I don't even remember who Michael Bennett is.
okay, hit that.
Castro might go after Biden. Jay Inslee's probably not going to go after Biden. Yang might go after Biden, but that only works if Yang actually gets to fucking talk tonight.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's working now. So, second account, or the first one I was using, is now in here. So checking, that's moved over there, that's moved over there. Good, good. Checking audio.
I'm going to put it about. I'm going to
Flip
control panel everything, put it about there.
quickly. Let's see if we can find something that's not going to cause a copyright strike. Immediately looks at some Gundam shit. Nah, I'm pretty sure that might. You might be able to get a copyright deadlock going there.
We might.
Yeah, sure. Let's put some Gundam shit on. Let's see what
You
happens.
know, also too probably helps with my video not being taken down. I don't fucking monetize any of this shit.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I actually got everything set up pretty fucking quickly. All right, cool. Let's quickly put it. Let's go to CNN. Yeah, they're hosting a second one tonight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My God, fucking CNN.
Yeah.
Okay, live CNN Democratic debate night 2. 10 Democrats, including
Change, require universal background checks for gun purchases, close the gender pay gap, and perhaps as importantly as anything, HR to reform our democracy, to return it to the people.
Don't yell. Come on.
That's the accomplishments wing of the
Listen to Tim
Democratic
Ryan.
Party. That's what we do. Those could be our accomplishments as a nation. But this president's too busy tweeting. And his lapdog in Kentucky, McConnell, old McConnell,
Good job.
had a farm.
Comedy Central saying? What the fuck?
E-I-E-I-O.
He tweeting.
And on that farm, he kept all those bills that passed the House.
Oh, looks like somebody wants to out retard Delaney
I
tonight.
told you before, I worked on the back of a trash truck, so I know garbage when I see it. And folks, this administration is a dumpster
You know, I'm
fire.
actually kind of sad that Cortez, not Cortez. Wait, am I thinking of Cortez?
Yeah.
The guy in the first debate who obviously knew what the fuck Spanish was.
43,000 tweets
Beto
or
tried his
so
shit.
from this president. And quite
Oh,
frankly,
Castro.
Yeah,
it seems like
Castro.
just about as many broken promises.
Sorry, that I did kind of wish.
He doesn't
that
want to
same thing would
remind
happen
you
with these
of those
second
broken
series debates.
promises
That
to
was
keep
kind of
companies
magical.
from closing their plants and shipping jobs overseas. He doesn't want to talk about
really
his
sad.
relentless attacks on people with pre-existing conditions. Many of you know Tom Harkin. Tom Harkin's daughter gave birth to a wonderful baby, 1.3 pounds, premature. Over 6 pounds today, 6 months later. a pre-existing condition for life. But because of the Affordable Care Act, they will not have to file for bankruptcy because there is no limit.
You know what I think the biggest case for getting rid of the Affordable Care Act is? A lot of Republicans are defending it now over universal health care.
The president has to stop tweeting and start solving problems. He's chronically incompetent. He consistently makes matters worse for people.
Yeah, I'm going to go grab some tea.
His playbook is simple. It's very simple. Distract, divide, scare, silence. As chair of the DNC, I am here to tell you clearly tonight, we will never be divided. We will always be united. Somos los Estados Unidos. No somos los Estados divididos. Now let me be clear, folks.
Also to the audience, I think
it's really important that we never conflate unity and unanimity.
I'm not against it.
I'm not asking y'all to agree with everything I say or everything that's in our platform.
I don't know if that's the right word.
But what I am asking you to do is unite around our common values.
How do we do?
We're going to have a discussion tonight about how to get to the mountaintop of universal health care. Everybody wants to get to that mountaintop. And there are different proposals of how to get there. And I would respectfully submit that nobody has a monopoly on the moral high ground. Everybody's fighting for what is right. And the other side is sabotaging. That's what we're fighting for, folks.
So that's all there.
And remember this. Our democracy has seen dark days like this before. Regrettably, this is not our first rodeo. We remember when it was the Italians and the Polish who were targets of anti-immigrant hate.
Skull, why did you block yourself?
Across this country in the mid-1800s during the so-called Know Nothing movement. I remember the sign.
I just got a message on the Hangout that said that Skull blocked William.
We remember the unconscionable internment of Japanese Americans, the Chinese Exclusion Act of the late 19th century. And we all remember and have studied the McCarthy era.
The reason why I'm blocking is because this headset, my other account's coming off way too loud. So I can't really hear you. So what I do is I block it, and I open up CNN on this computer, and I just turn it down to where, I can barely hear it, but I can hear you over it.
And they came to an end for one simple reason.
I gotta be a little.
And it was articulated by Barack
Obama. I
had the privilege of traveling with him to mark the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma. And he said that day,
to go to work.
The most important word in a democracy
it makes it easier for
is
me,
the simple two-letter word "we."
So I can comment.
It's amazing what we the people can do. It was the collective power
of we right now?
that ended the original sin of slavery. Although we have much more work to do to correct the badges and incidents of slavery. It was the collective power of we that gave women the right to vote 100 years ago. It was the collective power of we that brought us the New Deal, created Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and by the way, it was the Democrats that brought you those things. It was the collective power of we that brought us the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the ADA,
wait, is it Howard Dean?
Equality. Folks,
because I was going to say I'm getting like Howard.
We, the people of this party, the collective power of we will end gun violence together. We, the people of this party, can do that. We, the people of this party, will make sure that one good job and only one is enough to earn a living. We, the people, working together in this party, will protect a woman's right to choose.
I guess that shows how bad I am at this. Apparently, that might be Tom Perez.
The workers' right to organize.
Yeah, that's Tom Perez.
We, the people of this party, will make sure that we tackle the mounting burden of student debt. We, the people of this party, will ensure that zip code never, ever determines destiny. We, the people of this party, will make healthcare a right for all. We, the people of this party, will tackle climate change together, inclusively, once and for all.
Anyway, this is someone I don't really know, care.
We, the people
really hard to
of this party.
What the fuck is he doing?
Barack Obama. We are hope's greatest hero and fear's greatest foe. Is
being an opening man for these
the Democrats,
candidates?
Won Michigan in 2018. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Madam Attorney General. Women were kicking butt here in Michigan and across the country. We won in
do you think we're getting our
Wisconsin.
pledge
We won in
records again?
Pennsylvania. We won in so many other states. What's the matter with Kansas?
Yeah.
Not a damn
I mean,
thing.
it would
We're
be
electing
weird not to do it
Democrats.
tonight.
That's what's the matter with Kansas. We're doing it everywhere. And in 2020, we're going to win the White House. We're going to win the Senate. We're going to win the House. We're going to take over the state house, the state house of representatives here and elsewhere.
Service rifles. It would have been fucking hilarious if it was literally like this machine kills communists.
But we can only do this if we do it together. If we remember what Senator Kenny taught us, that idealism and pragmatism can never be mutually exclusive, that we can be dreamers and doers. And we can do that all. But we must do it together. We need you in this fight. We need you to join this fight. I hope you'll text debate to 43367. Debate to 43367 so you can join the fight. Help us build that infrastructure. I am so excited to be partnering again with CNN tonight. I know you will enjoy this debate, and I am confident we will take back our democracy. Thank you very much.
That was DNC Chairman Tom Perez speaking for the second night in a row just before this debate. Debate is now just moments away. All the questions about to be answered. We'll be right back.
We're at
Oh yeah, Skulker,
right
you post. Because Monster wants the link to the thing. Yeah, can you post the link to
the actual
the video feed?
Oh yeah, sure, I can do that. Give me a sec. Discord here.
Be warned, Monster, it might not work for you because you're a Canadian.
CNN discriminates against those fucking maple syrup drinkers. Also, that joke we did yesterday of like, you know, pretty much they built the wall at the wrong border and Canadians are sneaking in to make Montana more blue. That is kind of a hilarious conspiracy in my opinion. Because all that's picturing in my head is like a bunch of Canadians coming down trying to act like fucking like, you know, yokels in fucking Montana.
Yeah. Oh, hello, fellow American. How about we go to the Dunkin' Donuts? Let's buy a carton of milk, not in a bag.
Hey Matt, who are you?
Actually, I wonder if do Canadians have like their own equivalency of the Emu War shit? Just something in their history they don't like.
No, but I found out. Shit, I can't remember which country it is, but it's the country that has control over the Galapagos Islands. They had their own version of the Emu War, the Goat War.
Okay.
But guess what? They actually won it. Also, it took 20 years.
You know, while it's funny, I have a feeling if we Americans ended up doing anything like this, it would just be horrifically bloody and just, you know, senseless.
Well, it did start out senseless. They just basically flew attack helicopters and tried to shoot the goats, and basically what happened during the Emu War happened. The goats would spread and run in different directions, and it's like, well, shit. So the way they finally won is they came up with this concept called the Judas goat. So basically, they would capture like a handful of goats and put trackers on them, and like these goats would go and join up with other goat herds on the island, and they would track the Judas goat and just kill all of the goats except for the one with the tracker, and then the one with the tracker would go find a new group and, you know, rinse, repeat.
You see, this sounds infinitely more actually creative than fucking us Americans, because all I could picture us Americans doing is just dropping enough daisy cutters on them until they're gone.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, they did want to just blanket the island in fucking poison, but the conservationists were like, that completely defeats the fucking purpose.
The top headliners of tonight, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, the California senator, arriving first of the two. Joe Biden, the last to arrive here in Detroit. Expectations running high, of course, after Harris's first go around with the former vice president, who was smiling.
It would be great if Joe Biden was dead, and that's why he's running last.
He got to the hall first by far in the polls, although the last to enter the actual venue tonight. We are back outside
brain hemorrhage in the shower.
Van Jones, Kirsten Powers, Jennifer Granholm, and Terry McAuliffe are here. All right, so obviously all eyes on Kamala Harris, on Joe Biden, but there are others for whom tonight is really, as we say, do or die, but it literally is. The next debate is going to have maybe half as many people. So who else are you watching?
Half the folks will be gone for the debate in September. So
let me double check who
make a move tonight. I think Governor James may have a real shot. He's done a great job of bringing climate change to the discussion. Everybody cares about climate change, and he's been the leader on that. He's a real opportunity.
I think it's going to be Biden again.
I think I'm going to be looking at Senator Bennett because
Michael Bennett, Colorado.
Yes, Colorado, because he wears his mantle of being a moderate, and I think he may be he could be like a wingman.
I mean, to be fair, people always love to bring up his debate against Sarah
I'm just be curious to see that dynamic. And names that a lot of Americans
and it's like, yeah, he beat them because they're fucking
to have that moment, which they need to have.
They're dumber than he was.
For money, and who are you looking
for? I think for Kirsten Gillibrand, it's definitely do or die. And she's been having a hard time because she says she thinks this because of sort of the backlash for her coming out and calling for Senator Franken to resign. And there's been reporting that she's going to go after Biden on some of his on women's issues because that's sort of her calling card.
It was actually kind of easy to get him stuck in
in particular, him opposing tax credits for child care.
And being able to out-debate Sarah Palin
I think that's going to be a mistake, but it'll be interesting to see if she goes there, because I think one thing for all of these people to think about is too much cheating up on Biden is going to maybe start to make him seem very sympathetic.
Right, to people. By the way, I said Kirsten, and I said, did I just misspeak? Because you see the look in my eye. All right,
fucking giant.
There's no one named Van on stage. Who are you watching?
The Iraq War is still more fresh in the memory than it is now.
I'm Gang. I believe that this time Andrew Yang will earn the respect of the country. He's the only person talking about the robots and the technology and all these creative solutions. And last time he just kind of sat there and kind of watched the whole thing like he was observing. If he does what he can do, he will have a moment tonight.
And
I am still Yang Gang.
Okay, some people watching, and I want to make a point though on that. They don't know who he is. Right? If you don't live on social media and you don't,
he's a big deal.
Followers are passionate.
Booker has a good chance of fucking up.
Whoever ends up winning this thing needs to have
and fresh ideas and new ideas. And the thing is, he doesn't have to attack anybody. He's got a whole new set of ideas. I'm telling you, Yang Gang. I'm putting another bet down on Yang.
Yes,
I'm going to be looking at Julian Castro. He had a great night the first debate, and then it was completely overwhelmed by the coverage of the second debate. So this time around, he's on night 2. That means if he does it again, we might still be talking about it next week.
All right, and then you're going to have people who are being very aggressive because
I think Harris.
Right? You got nothing to lose. Look, a lot of people have nothing to lose.
So what are we going to be doing tonight?
Governor, what about Tulsi Gabbard?
Tulsi Gabbard has pretty much. If she doesn't do something tonight, that's the end of it.
Pretty much the moderates try to
mayor of New York City. He can't get out of the bottom of the cellar, and he's got to do something tonight. What happens is the money will dry up, and if you're not going to be on the next debate stage,
if they're smart,
you just can't pay your staff. And
today's going to be
out of money.
Let's all ship power on Joe Biden.
One thing about Tulsi Gabbard tonight, there is now tension around Iran, this tension overseas. She is a veteran. She's one of the younger people running. She's served overseas. She's very, very anti-war. If a question
it's funny. I was thinking of Dawn of the Dead with the fucking army colonel being like choked on him.
So she doesn't even need one coming our way.
All right, thanks to all of you. Of course, as we count down, let's go inside the hall. Anderson.
Aaron, thanks very much. Just minutes away from the start. Plenty to watch for in just a couple of minutes here with the panel. John King, I mean, really, for Joe Biden, tonight is crucially important. I mean, last night, impacts tonight on how Biden's going to go about this.
His calling card is, I'm the guy you want to go against Trump. All these other candidates are great. They're wonderful people, but I'm the big guy. I served with Barack Obama. I have the experience. I can debate Trump. He has to prove that because he had a shaky first debate. The flip side of that is, what is Senator Harris's second act? You don't want, it's just, it was noted on the last point. You don't want to just come at Biden. You have to prove that you have a bigger, broader portfolio. Can she defend her health care plan? Can she have another
near
good
double
performance?
digits?
She built? Plateaued. Now the question is, can she build a?
Or it might be Castro. I know one of those two is polling like
maybe
better than anybody
it's hard to know. I think
last
he
night.
might attack her if she challenges him again. But I think the target is clearly on Biden's back
besides
tonight.
Warren and
what
Bernie.
he has to do is fight back, talk about his policies, and then go big. Is to go big against Donald Trump. And show that's why a majority of Democratic voters believe he's the one who can beat Donald Trump. He has to prove it again tonight because he didn't prove it in the last debate. So he's got to do it.
It's also, I mean, David asked right. If last night it was Elizabeth Warren trying to show that she is a leader beyond just having plans, that she has energy, that she has vitality, Joe Biden's got to do the same thing. I mean, it's not just about plans. It's showing you are the one to take this on.
Yeah, well, I think he started off that way. He is the front runner. Now he has to prove that he should be the front runner. And I think you're going to hear more about Trump in this debate, partly because you have every candidate of color on the stage. Race will
even more so than last night. I mean, to be fair, like
weeks and the direction Trump has taken.
Some of the also-rans tonight are doing better in the polls than like any of the absolute losers
up and talk about
from the last night.
We're in.
I think that's right. And are there sort of any unlikely alliances that form on stage? Does Kamala Harris get sort of incoming from people like Tulsi Gabbard?
Except for like Inslee,
does Biden deliver? He said that he's not going to be polite.
They should have fucking replaced Elizabeth Warren
not really
and
be able to deliver
Bernie with those two from last night.
That's
an inside.
Yes.
All the losers.
He was polite, that's for sure.
If it was all losers,
that is the question. I mean, it was sort of odd. Did you find it odd, I guess, that Joe Biden to telegraph, I'm going to be tough?
That was probably part of it.
Just be tough.
I did, and it does raise the question.
Dude, if it was just them,
I'm sure they've
we're
rehearsed
watching
and pushed
fucking
and understand where some
or
most of the attacks are coming. But this is where reality hits preparation.
I mean, I still would have watched just because Delaney delights me.
He has to be careful not to overreact, punch down, look smaller rather than bigger, but still be tough. It's a balancing act.
But his benefit this time is that he kind of knows what to expect more than he did last time. So he's prepared. I would assume he's got great people doing it.
Also,
he's prepared for everything. He's prepared to respond. And the question I have is, does he take on, as you were asking before, does he decide to go after Kamala?
They're so badass.
On healthcare.
No,
yes,
that's
the issue.
And that has to be the proxy, the substance of healthcare to the big issue. This is why I should lead the party.
Exactly.
This is why I should be your leader, because I have a better plan on healthcare. Let me explain this to you. And I think that will be through Harris, but the target is as much Warren and Sanders.
All right, it is time. We're going to see you all right back here for post-debate coverage, including analysis, of course, and interviews with the candidates. The CNN Democratic debate, round 2, live from Detroit, starts right now.
A pivotal point in the race for the presidency.
10 candidates each with a chance to alter the course of this primary contest.
They're backstage now.
It is really sad that it would have been better if they put Wolf Blitzer or fucking Anderson Cooper on this.
The candidates facing off for a second night in Michigan. Donald Trump won this battleground state by fewer than 11,000 votes, and the Democrats want it back.
Donald Trump threatened.
I don't think we would have ended up with that weird shit.
And we have a predator living in the White House.
Tonight, a critical rematch. Former Vice President Joe Biden aiming to reclaim his momentum.
I don't believe there's anyone in this race more prepared than me.
Senator Kamala Harris not backing down after clashing with Biden over race.
There is still a point of disagreement between he and I. That remains.
Biden, flanked by Harris and Senator Cory Booker, who says President Trump is ripping apart the fabric of the nation.
Donald Trump wants us to fight him on his
I really love the animated intros they have for these.
Candidates just beyond center stage, opportunity and enterprise.
Who will become
Former
the
housing secretary
Toge?
Castro.
We're going to make sure that the promise of America is available to everyone.
And entrepreneur Andrew Yang.
The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
the fiercely focused, betting their campaigns on a defining issue. For Senator Michael Bennet, breaking gridlock.
Legit, it would be kind of funny to find out like the production company behind
For
these
Governor
was
Jay
the same
Inslee,
company that did,
the
like,
climate
WWE
crisis.
or
We need to
something
stand up to
type of
defeat
events.
climate change.
For Congresswoman
Yang
Tulsi
literally
Gabbard,
say,
ending war.
just say,
Most
like the
important
opposite
responsibility
of
that the
Donald
president
Trump
has
is
is to
an
serve
Asian man
as
who likes
commander in chief.
math.
And 2 New Yorkers, Mayor Bill de Blasio
Are you ready to fight for change in America?
and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
When we join together, brave wins.
Now, the stage is set for candidates to take on hot-button issues.
We need to stop playing games with people who are seeking asylum.
I will ban the importation of assault weapons.
But war never
and
changes.
the course
In
of American
2077,
history.
the bombs
Now
dropped.
it is our turn. We choose hope over fear. We are the United States of America.
You know it's bad when you need to make the foot more dynamic by doing more shaky cams thing.
You know, whoever's doing the music is on point.
I guess. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of like kind of poorly translated like Japanese import games with PS4. It sounds like that type of music is like
I know.
menu screen of one of those
Detroit,
games.
Michigan. Welcome
That's why I
to
kind of like it. It reminds me of like a JRPG.
Watching us on CNN.
No, like I
CNN
could literally play this like SD
CNN
Gundam
and
like
Espanol,
generation fucking like menu
CNN.com,
music, and you would
and
not
listening
really
on
be able to
Sirius
tell that big of a
XM
difference.
and the Westwood One radio network. This is the CNN Democratic presidential debate, and a special welcome to the U.S. military members, diplomatic corps, and their families
over under how
serving
much suck
overseas
Biden's dick
and watching on the American Forces Network.
A lot.
I'm Jay Capper, anchor of The Lead and State
I'm
of the
willing to
Union,
bet the
along with
questions
CNN's
tonight are going to
chief
be a lot
political
more limp
correspondent
dick.
Dana Bash and Don Lemon, anchor of CNN Tonight.
The 20 Democratic presidential candidates were divided into two groups by random draw earlier this month. The first 10 appeared last night. Now it's time for the second 10.
Please welcome from Delaware, former Vice President Joe Biden.
Oh, looks like he didn't have the brain hemorrhage.
From California, Senator Kamala Harris.
Yeah. I was thinking of a really bad joke. Skull. If Comrade Tumor did infect Joe Biden, would that make his son like Cambodia? Like his son was the Ho Chi Minh Trail to Joe Biden?
From New York,
he had to get her
businessman
intel.
Andrew Yang.
Like fucking.
Comrade Tumor got the right family
former
wrong
Secretary
target.
of Housing and Urban Development, Julian Castro.
Hey, the guy who can speak better Spanish than Beto.
From Hawaii, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. From New York, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Good to see you.
From Washington State, Governor Jay Inslee. Who's my wife? I gotta find my wife.
Yeah, that's important.
From Colorado, Senator Michael Bennet.
Okay, I refuse to accept any like applause
From
or
New
like,
York City,
people
Mayor
shouting
Bill
in
de
the background.
Blasio. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic candidates for President of the United States. Now please rise for the presentation of colors from the James Europe VFW Post 2233 and the District 4 Honor Guard. And please remain standing for our national anthem, performed by Grammy and Tony Award-winning singer Dee Dee Bridgewater, who was raised in Flint, Michigan.
See, there you go. Oh, they're doing it again.
Yeah, we're doing it again.
What is this, fucking Stomp?
You know, actually, I'm kind of curious why the honor.
Yeah, let's just fucking wait. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm a little curious why the honor the honor weapon or whatever you want to call it has to be an M1 service rifle always. Like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they use a different rifle for honor purposes. Like maybe they use an M14 or something. But I think every time I've seen one, it's always back in M1 service.
So proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
Well, Nish, the Grammys have never mattered.
For the land of the free and the whole.
Also, I mean, technically, like, look, she's just doing what everybody does when they sing the anthem.
I'm sorry, I still think it's a shit anthem.
I mean, it kind of is. Like, again, like I said, I like the bombs bursting in the air part. I feel like I'm in Edgar Allan's Telltale Heart, just listening to that
The debate
thumping
will begin
sound.
right after this short break.
Can't really be mad the second time. So is there a third series of these?
No.
So it's just one,
I mean, there's going to be a third debate in, I want to say September. I think the third debate's in September.
Okay, so when do we actually, like, I don't know, get rid of some of these candidates? Like, when the fuck is Super Tuesday gonna, like, pretty much seal the deal that half these fuckers are not gonna win?
Well, a lot of them are probably gonna start dropping out in August. Because it's like, was it Virgil on Chapo who talked about how this is basically like a lot of these guys' equivalent of like, I'm going to buy a Ferrari or a yacht or something. They're just like, I'm going to run for president. That's going to be my hobby for the next 6 months.
Well, to be honest, I saw it, and I don't know if it's Chapo Trap House. It might be Majority Report, but I could have sworn there's a grift on this.
I mean, yeah, like some of these people are probably just doing this so, you know, they can write books and bullshit and maybe get like a fucking, like a speaking thing at some like fucking think tank.
Yeah, or like literally you're just like, you're doing this for connections, you're doing this for like, you know, for getting a network going or whatever. And it does kind of make me wonder, because that's got to be more, that has to explain more than any of these fucking people who are, like at fucking 1% or whatever, and why they're still in here. And I personally do agree with the thought that is kind of criminal to fucking, like, you have the candidates everyone wants to fucking see when it comes to these polls, like the people who we actually want to talk, and you kind of like flowing it off to these fucking people who are like 1% or whatever is kind of ridiculous, personally.
And I get why my idea from last night wouldn't be preferable in a lot of cases for a debate, But like when you have like 20 fucking candidates, the time should really be based off of like people's interest, Like 1%, like less than 1% of fucking people who are polled like care about Delaney.
Yeah,
also, they just wasted 12 minutes. Good job,
Opening statements, but first, a quick review of the ground rules that your campaigns agreed to earlier this month to try to ensure a fair debate. As moderators, we will attempt to guide the discussion. You will each receive 1 minute to answer questions, 30 seconds for responses and rebuttals, and 15 additional seconds if a moderator asks for a clarification. The timing lights will remind you of these limits. Please respect them, and please refrain from interrupting other candidates during their allotted time. A candidate infringing on another candidate's time will have his or her time reduced.
I think that might
we again remind our audience inside the Fox Theater to try to remain silent when candidates are actively debating. The candidates need to be able to properly hear the questions and each other.
More hilarious if they just like.
Let's start with opening statements. You will each receive 1 minute. Mayor Bill de Blasio, please begin.
To the working people of America,
or they just had somebody come out with a squirt bottle.
Hope. We can make change in this country. I know from personal experience it can be done. When I became the mayor of the nation's largest city, I set us on a path of bold change. They said it couldn't be done, but we gave pre-K to every child for free.
Why are we starting with de Blasio?
We lowered crime. We raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Yes, it can be done.
I don't know.
Now, tonight, we have to get to the heart and soul of who we are as Democrats. There are good people on the stage, but there are real differences. Joe Biden told wealthy donors that nothing fundamentally would change if he were president.
I don't know why, but that sounds kind of weirdly fitting for the mayor of New York.
She's not trying to restructure society. Well, I am.
I mean, it is like Bloomberg does that all the fucking time of like, well, if fucking Elizabeth or Bernie get the nomination, I'm going to run this an independent.
It cannot go on this way. When I'm president, we will even up the score and we will tax the hell out of the wealthy to make this a fairer country. And to make sure it's a country that puts working people first.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Senator Michael Bennett.
Thank you. Last week,
nobody cares about Schultz. Is he even still running?
America, love it or leave it. And it was on the outside.
I have literally not heard anything about Schultz in like
I love America.
At least 2 months.
And I know we can make it better. Before coming to the Senate, I ran a large urban school district where most of the kids live in poverty. Those kids have exactly the same hopes that I had. Their parents have exactly the same hopes for them that my parents had for me, and that Susan and I have for our 3 children. But for the last 3 years, we've been consumed by a president who frankly doesn't give a damn about your kids or mine. Mr. President, kids belong in classrooms, not cages.
This guy sounds like fucking Chapo Trap House's version of
and
Jordan
they deserve
Peterson.
something better than a bully in the White House.
Well, no, like,
Let's end this three-ring circus in Washington.
When you see Naruto pregnant, you can't be pregnant because he's a man.
Kids and our democracy. Empty promises won't beat Donald Trump.
The tone of the voice, I don't have much of an issue with. It's his speed. It's like
Governor Jay Inslee.
Has he been drugged?
Good evening. I'm Jay Inslee. I am running for president because the people in this room and the Democrats watching tonight are the last best hope for humanity on this planet. If if we make defeating the climate crisis the top priority of the United States,
every generation
we
thinks they're
will
the
have
most
a fighting
important.
chance to save ourselves and our children's future.
That's a reference to fucking Cold War II.
Priority. My plan is one of national mobilization, quickly bringing 100% clean energy
we're all gonna like
to
load
Americans,
up
creating
into
8
like
million good
spaceships to go take out an
union
asteroid.
jobs. This is a big, bold, ambitious plan for clean energy for a big, bold, ambitious nation. Middle ground approaches are not enough. We must confront the fossil fuel industry. I've been working on this for 25 years, and now we know this. We are at a tipping point, and whether we shrink from this challenge or rise to it.
Wait, no, dude, that was a bad sentence. Wait, you've been working on this for 25 years. We need to confront the fossil fuel industries. Well, you've done a shit job for the last 25 years, haven't you?
I mean, to be fair, he is your governor.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. My grandmother taught me that nothing's impossible.
Is he my governor?
She spent 2 generations in upstate New York.
Okay, I was about to say, because
my mother taught me nothing's impossible. She was one of only 3 women in her law school class and worked with gay couples for basic rights. If you want to get something done, just tell me it's impossible. As a freshman senator, I was told you couldn't repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Even members of my own party told me it wasn't convenient. When are civil rights ever convenient? We stood up to the Pentagon and we got it done. Not impossible. 10 years ago, I was told you couldn't pass health care for our 9/11 first responders, those heroes who raced up the towers.
You know, Rand Paul almost fucked that up.
Even when Congress turned its back on them, we kept fighting. Just last week, we made the 9/11
I hope somebody calls out fucking Rand Paul. From just being a fucking shithead. I hate
Donald Trump.
I hate Rand Paul way more than I ever hated his dad.
We need a nominee who will take on the big fights and win. We need a nominee who doesn't know the meaning of impossible.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. I love our country. It's why I enlisted after 9/11.
At least with Ron Paul, you got the feeling.
For over 16 years. Deployed twice to the Middle East and serve in Congress now for almost 7 years.
Your breathing's getting louder.
I know what patriotism is, and I've known many great patriots throughout my life. And let me tell you this, Donald Trump is not behaving like a patriot. As president, I will bring this spirit of real patriotism to the White House, serving the interests of all Americans, not
just the Marianne Williams. You're no
fight for our rights and freedoms of all Americans, upholding these principles in our Constitution upon which our country was founded.
But yeah, at least with Ron Paul,
and equality.
I never agreed with him, but you at least had the feeling like, yeah, this guy actually believes in the shit he says.
That more perfect union. And as president, I'll bring this unifying spirit of love for country and the soldiers' values of service above self to the White House, truly leading a government of, by, and for the people.
Secretary Julian Castro.
Thank you, Dana, and good evening. You know, just a few days ago, we were reminded and inspired by our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico that public service is not fundamentally about any of us. It's about you and your family.
Yeah, one thing we double check.
I want you to know that if I'm elected president, that I will work hard every single day so that you and your family can have good health care.
Maybe it was fucking Oregon.
So that your children and grandchildren can get a good education, so that they can reach their dreams.
He's one of those.
So that you can have good job opportunities, whether you live here in a big city like Detroit or in a small town in our country.
I remember fucking John.
I know we have a wonderful, special nation, but too many people are struggling. And I know what that's like too.
Yeah, no.
I grew up with a single mom in a poor neighborhood. But like many of you, I don't want to make America anything again. I don't want us to go backward. We're not going back to the past. We're not going back where we came from. We're going to move forward. We're going to make America better than it's ever been in the years to come. Let's do that together.
Andrew Yang.
Okay, I honestly thought he was.
If you've heard anything about me and my campaign, you've heard that someone is running for president who wants to give every American $1,000 a month. I know this may sound like a gimmick, but this is a deeply American idea. from Thomas
Smart
Paine
move,
to
Yang.
Martin Luther King to
Start
today.
with the $1,000
Let me tell you why
a
we need
month.
to do it and how we pay for it. Why do we need to do it? We already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and chances are your job could be next. If you don't believe me, just ask an auto worker here in Detroit. How do we pay for it? Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying zero in taxes while doing it. We need to do the opposite of much of what we're doing right now, and the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
Oh my God, he said it again.
$1,000 a month for every
said the
adult
math
would be
thing again.
$461 million every month right here in Detroit alone.
I wasn't fucking
the automation of our jobs is the central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people.
Like an Asian man who does math.
Senator
I
Cory
honestly
Booker.
thought that was some dumb
Dana.
joke on our Discord server. I
Last
didn't know that was
week, the
legitly from
president
him.
of the United States
I'm a little fucking dumbfounded
attacked
a little bit.
an American city, calling it a disgusting, rat-infested, rodent mess. We need a nation that understands that these tired, old language.
Why are they yelling in the crowd?
Stand by, Senator.
I will stand by.
Please stand by. Please continue, Senator.
What were they?
Thank you
was
very
it
much.
5 minutes later?
Donald Trump, from Charleston to Baltimore to even the border, is using the tired old language of demagogues, of fear-mongers, of racists to try to divide our country against itself. We know who Donald Trump is, but in this election, the question is, who are we as a people? We have serious problems in America.
I know how to figure out what they said.
Deep wounds and seriously deeply rooted challenges. We desperately need to heal as a nation and move forward.
That doesn't sound like it's not going to backfire.
Because we know in this country,
it sounds like somebody.
Our fates are united, that we have a common destiny. The call of this election is the call to unite in common cause and common purpose. That's how we will beat Donald Trump. That's how I will beat Donald Trump. And as your president, that's how I will govern and move us forward together.
Senator Kamala Harris. This is an inflection moment in the history of our country. I think we all know that. This is a moment in time that is requiring us each as individuals and collectively to look in a mirror and ask a question. That question being, who are we? And I think most of us know that part of the answer to that question is we are better than this. So this then becomes a moment that we must fight for the best of who we are. And fight, of course, we will. And this is not a new fight for us as Americans. We have always been prepared.
People are saying they fight makes mayo.
Been a nation that fights for the best of who we are. And I'll tell you, I come from fighters. My parents met when they were active in the civil rights movement. My sister Maya and I joke, we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. And I am prepared to march with you, to fight with you for the best of who we are.
They were yelling at Cory Booker. It was probably something to do with
4 more years of Donald Trump and against him. Vice President Joe Biden.
Tonight, I think Democrats are expecting some engagement here, and I expect we'll get it. I'm running for president to restore the soul of this country. You know, we have a president, as everybody's acknowledged here, every day is ripping at the social fabric of this country. But no one man has the capacity to rip that apart. It's too strong. We're too good.
Also, I was wrong. Like, nobody on Twitter, everybody on Twitter is like us. Like, what the fuck are they saying?
Mayors, senators, governors, congresswomen, members of the cabinet, and yes, even a vice president.
So am I,
Mr. President,
am I completely in the wrong thinking that Their
and we are
entire we're
strong
better
and
than
great
this
because of
is
this
nonsense
diversity,
because
Mr. President.
Trump's
Not
matching
in
people
spite of it,
racist.
Mr. President.
He's
Mr. President,
pretty much
let's get
showing
something straight.
the fissure here.
We
in our
love it.
country.
We are not
Like,
leaving it.
He's just
We are
showing
here to
that
stay, and
his
we're
device-
certainly not going to leave it to you.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. I want to start the debate with one of the top priorities for Democratic voters, and that is health care. Senator Harris,
Wait, aren't you supposed to call
this
him
week
former
you
vice
released
president?
a new health care plan, which would preserve private insurance and take 10 years to phase in. Vice President Biden's campaign calls your plan, quote, a have it every which way approach, and says it's just part of a confusing pattern of equivocating about your health care stance. What do you say to that?
Well, they're probably confused because they've not read it. But the reality is that I have been spending time in this campaign listening to American families, listening to experts, listening to healthcare providers. And what I came away with is a very clear understanding
Okay, so it looks
that I
like we
needed
are
to
going
create
to.
a plan
So
that was responsive to the needs of the American people, responsive to their needs, understanding that insurance companies have been jacking up the prices for far too long, that American families have to be held down by deductibles and co-pays and premiums that can cause them bankruptcy. I listened to the American families who said 4 years is just not enough to transition into this new plan. So I devised a plan where it's going to be 10 years of a transition. I listened to American families who said, I want an option that will be under your Medicare system that allows a private plan.
This is
So
just
I
a theory.
designed a plan where,
they were
yes,
chanting
responsive to the
fight
needs of
big
American families,
pharma.
there will be a public plan under my plan for Medicare and a private plan under my plan for Medicare.
Well, to be fair,
because
if
the
you feel
bottom
that
line is
that
this.
is an issue
We
to
must
interrupt the
agree that
debate over.
access to health care must be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And in America today, far too many
They
people, in
probably
fact,
should have
30
waited
million
though
people
until
are
Cory
going without
Booker
access
was
to health
trying to
care.
Thank you,
answer
Senator
this.
Harris. Vice President Biden, your response.
Well, my response is that the senators had several plans so far. And anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good in 10 years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years. If you notice, there's no talk about the fact that the plan in 10 years will cost $3 trillion. You will lose your employer-based insurance. And in fact, this is the single most important issue facing the public. And to be very blunt and to be very straightforward, you can't beat President Trump with double talk on this plan.
Your response, Senator Harris?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
boy.
Vice President Biden, you're simply inaccurate in what you're describing.
Look at high
The reality
energy
is
Joe
that our
Biden,
plan will bring
like a
health
fucking
care
dynamo.
to all Americans under a Medicare for All system. Our plan will allow people to start signing up on the first day. Babies will be born into our plan, and right now, 4 million babies almost are born every day in America, or every year in America. Under our plan, we will ensure that everyone has access to health care. Your plan, by contrast, leaves out almost 10 million Americans. So I think that you should really think about what you're saying, but be reflective and understand that the people of America want access to health care and do not want cost to be their barrier to getting it.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, your response?
The plan, no matter how you cut it, costs $3 trillion when it is in fact employed. Number one, 10 years from now, after 2 terms of the senator being president, after her time. Secondly, it will require middle-class taxes to go up, not down. Thirdly, it will eliminate employer-based insurance. And fourthly, what happens in the meantime?
I'd like to respond. First of all, the cost of doing nothing is far too expensive. Second, we are now paying $3 trillion a year for healthcare in America. Over the next 10 years, it's probably going to be $6 trillion. We must act. My plan is about immediately allowing people to sign up and get into coverage. Right now in America, we have seniors who every day, millions of seniors, are going into the Medicare system. And they are getting full coverage and the kind of coverage they need. All people should have access to health care, and costs should not be
Thank you,
their
Senator
barrier.
Harris. Mayor de Blasio, let's bring you in here. What's your response?
Thank you. I don't know what the Vice President and Senator are talking about. The folks I talk to about health insurance say that their health insurance isn't working for them. There's tens of millions of Americans who don't even have health insurance. Tens of millions more who have health insurance that can barely make it work because of the copays, the deductibles, the premiums, the out-of-pocket expenses. There's this mythology that somehow all these folks are in love with their insurance in America. What I hear from union members and from hardworking middle-class people is they wish they had better insurance. And they're angry at private insurance companies that skim all the profits off the top and make it impossible for everyday people to get coverage like mental health care, dental care, the things that would be full coverage.
Out of all of the also Rams, I do appreciate, like, at least on this issue, he knows. He knows,
defending a healthcare system that
he's not trying to defend the fucking system like Delaney or Tim Ryan or any of those fucking shills from last night.
The way to build this and get to it immediately is to build on Obamacare. Go back and take back all the things that Trump took away, provide a public option, meaning every single person in America would be able to buy another option.
You want to put shit back into the Affordable Care Act that the future Republican president will fucking just rip out again anyways. You're an idiot.
The vast majority of Americans. In the meantime, what happens? Did anybody tell you how much the plans cost? My plan cost $750 billion.
I really wish he died of that fucking tumor.
$30 trillion.
I really wish he died of that tumor and not his son.
You support Medicare for all. How do you feel about Senator Harris continuing to call her health proposal Medicare for all when it includes a far more significant role for private insurance than the bill you co-sponsored?
Like reverse,
for the viewers in the audience
like
right
reverse
now, they're at
John
risk of
Coffey
losing
from
the
Green
forest
Mile.
and trees. Because the truth is, healthcare in America should be a right. When I was a young mother and had Theo as an infant, he had an allergic reaction to eggs and his whole body turned red and puffy. I had to rush him to the emergency room.
That's why he fondled all those little girls. It's not because he's a fucking sex creep. It's because it was part of some like elder ritual.
Or a credit card in my wallet. I know whatever they're going to prescribe, whether it's an EpiPen or an inhaler, I can afford it.
Girls buy their fucking prepubescent tits
can't afford it.
to awaken the old god.
Insurance companies, for these plans that rely on insurance companies, I'm sorry. They're for-profit companies. They have an obligation to their shareholders. They pay their CEO millions of dollars. They have to have quarterly profits. They have fat in the system that's real, and it should be going to healthcare. So let's not lose the forest for the trees. And last, let's not forget what the Republicans are doing. Because the truth is, the Republicans and Trump, their whole goal is to take away your health care, to make it harder for you to afford it, even if you have pre-existing conditions.
Senator Harris, your response.
Because like I said, I don't want to turn it up too loud because then that will make me go louder, and I can't go too loud tonight.
It is important that you understand that our Medicare for All plan has actually, by the architect of the Obama Affordable Care Act, been described as one of the most effective ways
to bring healthcare to all Californians. I always try to match the volume of whatever I'm hearing.
That will get us to where we need to go. In terms of the point that Senator Gillibrand is raising, I couldn't agree more. Senator Biden, your plan will keep and allow insurance companies to remain with status quo, doing business as usual. And that's going to be about jacking up
Somebody in the chat was asking to turn it up a smidge, and I was like, okay.
People going to an emergency room have to come out $5,000.
My plan makes the limit of copay to be $1,000.
And your plan, like Obama's plan, can be reversed by a fucking Republican president.
Secondly, the idea that this is somehow
hey, Joe Biden, how do you guarantee that a Republican will never be elected president ever again?
Be able to keep it. Nothing is demanded in my plan that there be private insurance. It says if the 160 million people who have it say they like their employer insurance, they should have a right to have it. If they don't, they can buy into the Biden plan, which is Obamacare.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you. Senator Booker, let me bring you in here. You say you support Medicare for all. You also say you are not going to pull private health insurance from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for a government plan. But that's what Medicare for all would do. So how do you square that?
Well, first of all, let me just say that the person that's enjoying this debate most right now is
it's
Donald
the same
Trump.
like
We
where
pit
none of
Democrats
them will
against each other
critique
while
Hillary
he is
Clinton
working
for
right
running the
now
garbage
to
campaign,
take
or
away
none of them
Americans'
will
health care.
critique like fucking Bill Clinton for his fucking crime bill bullshit.
Gut the Affordable Care Act and actually gut protections on pre-existing conditions. And so I was raised by two civil rights parents who told me always keep your eyes on the prize. And that is that in the United States of America, every Democrat should stand with the belief that everyone should have access to health care, that it's a human right. And how we get there, it has to be to end this broken system, because we are on our way in just a handful of years of literally spending 20% of our economy.
I know we're only 30 minutes into this debate, but already I'm like, this is so much more boring than last night.
Nation on everything from MRIs to insulin drugs, multiple more than other countries, multiple more than other countries. And so you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work to get us to a point where Medicare for all, where everyone is covered. But this pitting against progressives, against moderates, saying one is unrealistic.
Again, this is why I wish Warren was on tonight.
Dividing our party,
replace her with Harris.
Of the real enemy here.
Thank you,
I'm
Senator.
going to keep fighting for that.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Congressman Gabbard, what's your response?
So to be fair, the first debate I felt
The reality is right now we don't have a healthcare
The only
system.
thing sucked about it is
We have a sick care system, and there are far too many people in this country who are sick and unable to get the care that they need because they cannot afford it. So the core of this problem is the fact that big insurance companies and big pharmaceutical companies who've been profiting off the backs of sick people have had a seat at the table writing this legislation. Now, Kamala Harris just talked about Kathleen Sebelius, who helped write her bill. This just pointed to the fatal flaw in her proposal. Sebelius works for Medicare Advantage, private insurance company who will stand to profit under her plan. If we're seeking to really reform our healthcare system, we've got to shut out big insurance and big pharma out of the drafting process so they cannot continue to profit off the backs of the sick people in this country who are searching and in desperate need of care.
Senator Harris, your response?
Well, unfortunately, Representative Gabbard got it wrong. Kathleen Sebelius did not write my plan. She endorsed it as being one of the plans that is the best to get us to a place where everyone is going to have access to health care in America. And when we talk about this again, I'm going to go back to Vice President Biden, because your plan does not cover everyone in America by your staff's and your own definition. 10 million people. As many as 10 million people will not have access to health care. And in 2019 in America, for a Democrat to be running for president with a plan that does not cover everyone, I think is without excuse. Our plan covers everyone and gives people choice.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Biden, your response.
My plan will cover everyone, number one. Number two, the fact is that my plan also calls for controlling drug prices. The biopharma is now where things are going to go. It's no longer chemicals. It's about all these breakthroughs we have with the whole, dealing with the whole, immune system. And what we have to do now is we have to have a form that sits in the HHS and says, as you develop a drug, you got to come to us and decide what you can sell it for. We will set the price. And secondly, it says that you cannot raise that price beyond the cost of inflation from this point on.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I want to bring in Senator Bennett. Last night on this stage, one of your Democratic rivals suggested that running on Medicare for all would get Donald Trump reelected. Do you agree with that, sir?
I agree that it makes it much more likely. Unlike others on this stage,
why are you bringing up Delaney
of all people? Through two tough races in Colorado.
One of the losers from last night who was polling below 1% brought up this.
Gives everybody in this audience the chance to pick for their family whether they want private insurance or public insurance. It requires drug companies to be negotiated with by Medicare, and it provides competition. That is totally different from the plan that Senator Warren
Why won't anybody talk about my platform position of having an earth-shattering kaboom?
Employer-based health insurance in this country and massively raise taxes on the middle class to the tune of $30 trillion, as Joe Biden said. We don't need to do that. It doesn't make sense for us to take away insurance from half the people in this room and put huge
almost
taxes
all of
on
them
almost
except for like
everybody in this
Gabbard
room
and
when we
Gillibrand,
can pass a
whole
public
head of
option,
all of
trust
the
the American
losers from
people
last
to
night
make the
except
right
for
decision
Warren
and have
Warren.
universal health care
I
in
mean
this
Sanders
country
and Warren.
in 2
Thank you,
years,
Senator.
not 10 years.
Secretary Castro, I want to bring you in.
I need to respond.
To be fair,
Your response. I'll come
to
to
be
you right
fair,
after
though,
Secretary
so a
Castro.
lot of them are polling below
I know that this is
5%.
something very personal for all Americans. You know, I grew up with a grandmother that had diabetes, and I watched as the condition got worse and worse. That whole time she had Medicare. I want to strengthen Medicare for the people who are on it and then expand it to anybody who wants it. I also believe, though, that if somebody has a private health insurance plan that is strong, that they want to hold on to, that they should be able to do that. What I don't believe is that the profit motive of big pharma or big insurance companies should ever determine in our great nation whether somebody gets health care or not.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Harris, Senator Bennett had suggested that you support banning employer-based health insurance. Is that true?
Well, see,
Well,
what
first
I
of all,
don't get is,
with all due respect to
I
my
hope to
friend
God
Michael
this is not
Bennett,
supposed to be energetic
my
Biden.
plan does not offer anything that is illegal. What it does is it separates
This is
the
energetic
employer
Biden.
from healthcare,
Also,
meaning
quick
that where
side
you
note,
work
so is
will
this like
not
the
be
third or
the
fourth
kind of
just
healthcare you
like,
get will not be a function of where you work. I
hey,
have met so many
Harris,
Americans
defend your
who
plan?
stick to a job that they do not like, where they are not prospering, simply because they need the healthcare that that employer provides. It's time that we separate employers from the kind of healthcare people get. And under my plan,
I
we
kind of
do
feel
that.
bad for
As it
Harris
relates to the
tonight
insurance and
because
the
it's not
pharmaceutical
like
companies,
Sanders
who will
and
not be
Warren last
called
night
in
where
and
they
who
were
will not
back
be
to
taken
back,
to
you
task
know.
by Senator Biden or Senator
Well, no,
Bennett's
this
plan,
feels like fucking.
we will
This
do
feels like
that.
Senator Bennett, I want to
retaliation
bring you
for
back.
fucking the
Senator
first debates
Harris is
where
my
she
friend
kind
as well,
of
but I have
went
to
against
say,
Biden.
if we can't admit tonight what's in the plan, which is banning employer-based insurance, we're not going to be able to admit that when Donald Trump is accusing Democrats of doing that as well. We need to be honest
I'm
about
going to pass a bill where everybody is going to clean their room
insurance and
we'll
taxes
finally
the middle
defeat the
class
dragon
to
of
the tune of
chaos.
$30 trillion. Do you know how much that is? That is 70% of what the government will collect in taxes over the next
Aren't you a
10
fucking
years.
Canadian citizen?
We don't
Why
need
are
to
you
do
even
that.
running?
Governor
We can
Inslee, I'm
have
going to come to you in a second, but I do want to
universal health care in this country.
I do want to bring in Senator Harris because he just suggested you were not being honest.
We cannot keep with the Republican talking points on this. You got to stop. The reality is that under my Medicare for All plan, yes, employers are not going to be able to dictate the kind of health care that their employees get. They will be able to make that decision.
So
Private insurance companies and private carriers, if they comply by our rules and play by our rules, will be able to offer those employees health coverage under a private Medicare plan, or they can have the option of a public Medicare plan. But it is misleading to suggest that employees want what their employer is offering only. They want choice, and my plan gives that to them.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Inslee, I want to bring you in. You recently signed a public option into law, which allows Washington state residents to purchase a state-backed plan if they want to, but this may only save families in Washington state as little as 5% off premiums. Is 5% really the kind of relief that the American people need?
No, we need universal coverage, and I'm proud of our state that has done less
to be fair,
squabbling and
Rhoda, the
actually
problem
getting
is
things done.
like they put all the
And I'm proud that we were the
educated
first
people on
state to
last
offer a
night.
publicly sanctioned offer of health care to our citizens.
And again, nobody's
I'm also
talking to
proud that we
Yang.
didn't stop
Well,
there.
last
We're
night
also
they
the first
also
state
pitted
that has
each
taken
other
care of our
against
elders,
each
our
other.
seniors. We
We
have a
haven't done that
gloomy
yet.
retirement wave coming
Other
up.
than Kamala.
I'm proud that our
and
state has
Kamala
made them
totally
eligible to
wanted
retire
to
in
win.
dignity. I'm also proud of this, and I think we need to talk more about this
what
with
I've seen
Democrats.
outside of like
It is time to give people
outside of like
adequate
candidates
mental health
explaining their
care in
plans
this
is like
country.
it seems like they keep
And
taking,
we
like,
are,
and
we
this
are,
person said something about your plan. Said something about your plan.
we are
Harris.
having,
So
we've
can you
had
defend
some
this?
success in
they've
integrating
done that
mental
at least
health
3 times
with
now.
physical health. There's no reason we should distinguish between your physiological and your mental health. And the last thing we're doing,
it's like I
think it's
said,
very
none of these
instructive for the
fucking
nation.
cowards are going to
We
attack
know
the
we're being
fucking
eaten alive by pharmaceutical
ACA.
costs. We have had one of, if not the most innovative way to drive down pharmaceuticals for life-saving medications in the United States. That's a record of Washington State. I'd like to take to Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Inslee. Mr. Yang, I want to bring you in. You support a Medicare for all system. How do you respond to Governor Inslee?
I just want to share a story. When I told my wife I was running for president, you know the first question she asked me? What are we going to do about our health care? That's a true story, and it's not just us. Democrats are talking about health care in the wrong way. As someone who's run a business, I can tell you flat out, our current healthcare system makes it harder to hire. It makes it harder to treat people well and give them benefits and treat them as full-time employees. It makes it harder to switch jobs, as Senator Harris just said, and it's certainly a lot harder to start a business. If we say, look, we're going to get healthcare off the backs of businesses and families, then watch American entrepreneurship recover and bloom. That's the argument we should be making to the American people.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Mayor de Blasio.
Yeah. I don't understand why Democrats on this stage are fear-mongering about universal health care. It makes no sense. Ask the American people. They are sick of what the pharmaceutical companies are doing to them. Ask them what they feel about the health insurance companies. They feel it's holding back their families because they can't get the coverage they need. They get a lot of no's. They don't get a lot of help from health insurance companies. Why are we not going to be the party that does something bold, that says we don't need to be dependent on private insurance? We can have a system that actually covers everyone. You know what? Donald Trump won this state of Michigan by saying he was going to disrupt the status quo. How about we be the party that's going to disrupt the status quo for working people?
Mr. Mayor, just a 15-second point of clarification. Who are you talking about? Who's fear-mongering?
Certainly, with all due respect to Senator Bennett, what he's saying is absolutely inaccurate about taxes. Americans right now are paying so much money for their health care. Ask people about the reality of premiums, deductibles, co-pays, out-of-pocket expenses. That's worse than any tax.
Thank you.
And people are paying that right now.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Mayor.
you had a chance to go after Biden, and you didn't do it.
This has nothing to do with Republican talking points or the pharmaceutical industry. This has to do with having faith in the American people that they can make the right decisions for their families, and they can choose a public option. Bernie Sanders, who said last night he wrote the damn bill, and he did, just like I wrote the damn public option bill, is the guy who says it'll cost $32 trillion and that we're going to have to raise those taxes to pay for it. He says that. Republicans don't say it. Don't try to
listen to me as a cartoon character. I just get with handbills and pianos all the time. I know about healthcare.
We're done with private insurance that has only hurt the American people in so many ways. We're going to give them something that works for their families, full coverage that they can depend on. If we say that, then there's an election. The American people get to decide. The ultimate choice, Senator, is an election. And this should be the party that stands for universal health care and says, we're not going to accept anything less. Right now in America, so many people don't have the health care they need. That is a fact. Tens of millions of people, including middle-class people.
Mayor.
Give them a chance to make that decision through an election.
Vice President Biden, your response, sir.
This is not a Republican talking point. The Republicans are trying to kill Obamacare. Obamacare took care of 20 million people right off the bat, 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. And in fact, what we got is a public option that in fact would allow anybody to buy in. No one has to keep their private insurance. They can buy into this plan, and they can buy into it with a $1,000 deductible and never have to pay more than 8.5% of their income when they do it. And if they don't have any money, they'll get in free. So this idea is a bunch of malarkey, what we're talking about here. The fact of the matter is that there will be a deductible. It will be a deductible in their paycheck.
How you know Biden is the oldest person on the stage?
$30 trillion has to ultimately be paid. And I don't know what math you do in New York.
I know
what math you do in California, but I tell you, that's a lot of money. There will be a deductible. The deductible will be out of your paycheck because that's what's required.
Senator Harris, I want to bring you in here. Your response?
Yeah, let's talk about math. Let's talk about math. Let's talk about the fact that the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies last year alone profited $72 billion,
like the Shaquille meme right now.
Of American families. And under your plan, status quo, you do nothing to hold the insurance companies to task for what they have been doing to American families. In America today, a diabetes patient, 1 in 4 cannot afford their insulin. In America today,
thank you, Senator.
For those people who are overdosed from an opioid, there is a syringe that costs $4,000 that will save their life. It is immoral, it is untenable, and it must change with Medicare for all.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Real quick. I have the only plan that limits the ability of insurance companies to charge unreasonable prices. Flat out, number one. Number two, we should put some of these insurance executives who totally oppose my plan in jail for the 9 billion opioids they sell out there. They are misrepresenting the American people what needs to be done. And lastly, here's the deal. Let's figure out how
talk. Oh, I love Biden. Let me grow up
Everybody
Biden
who wants to get off
Well,
of
it's gonna
their
be great when the
insurance
minutes
plan
come
they
out or
don't like, no
whatever.
matter
It's
what one
like
it is,
somehow
can
Biden's only
buy
gonna have like
into a
5 minutes of the
Medicare
debate.
option, and they can buy the gold plan, and they're not going to have to pay. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you. Let's move now to immigration, please. Secretary Castro, you think it should no longer be a crime to
looks
cross
like
the
I was
U.S.
wrong.
border illegally?
I thought
President
they were going
Obama's
to do.
Homeland Security
I thought they were
Secretary
going
Jay
to do
Johnson,
gun
whom you served with,
shit next.
says that is
No,
a public
wait. Immigration
declaration
was
that the
second
border
last
is,
night.
quote, effectively open to all. How is he wrong?
Thank you for that question. You know, if you elect me president, you're not electing me to follow. You're electing me to lead. And open borders is a right-wing talking point. And frankly, I'm disappointed that some folks, including some folks on this stage, have taken the bait. The only way that we're going to guarantee that we don't have family separations in this country again is to repeal Section 1325 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. That is the law that this president, this administration is using to incarcerate migrant parents and then physically separate them from their children. My immigration plan would also make sure that we put undocumented immigrants who haven't committed a serious crime on a pathway to citizenship, that we do a 21st century Marshall Plan.
So I guess
with
gun
Honduras,
violence is
El
going to be
Salvador, and
third.
Guatemala, so that we can get to the root of this challenge so people can find safety and opportunity at home instead of having to come to the United States. That's how we can be smarter, more effective, and more humane when it comes to immigration policy.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Bennett, what's your response?
That's terrible when you do something about it.
I disagree that we should decriminalize our border. This is personal for me. My mom's an immigrant, and she was separated from her parents during the Holocaust in Poland. And for those reasons, I was part of the Gang of Eight that I wrote the immigration bill in 2013 with John McCain that passed the Senate with 68 votes. That gave a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented people that are here. That would pass the most progressive DREAM Act that had ever been conceived, much less passed on the floor of the Senate, and had $46 billion of border security. Every single Democrat voted for that bill,
Senator,
and a lot of Republicans. That should be our position.
Thank you, Senator.
That is our position.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Harris, you have indicated that you don't think it should be a criminal offense punishable by jail to cross the U.S. border illegally. How do you respond to Senator Bennett?
Well, again, with all due respect, you know, after the last debate, for example, I went to a place in Florida called Homestead. And there is a private detention facility being paid for by your taxpayer dollars. A private detention facility that currently houses 2,700 children. And by the way, there were members of us, Julian was there, members of Congress, they would not let us enter the place, members of the United States Congress. So I walked down the road, I climbed a ladder and I looked over the fence. And I'm gonna tell you what I saw. I saw children lined up single file based on gender, being walked into barracks. The policies of this administration have been facilitated by laws on the books that allow them to be incarcerated as though they've committed crimes. These children have not committed crimes and should be not treated like criminals.
Senator Bennett, what's your response?
You know, this is kind of rich coming from Isn't she the same person who's literally like trying to put parents in jail for fucking
There's not a single person on this stage who, if we were president, would ever separate a child from their parents at the border. And that is what this administration has done in the American people's name. They have turned our border into a symbol of nativist hostility. The symbol of this country before Donald Trump was president was the Statue of Liberty. That should be the symbol of the United States of America, not Donald Trump.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. Senator Jill Brown, I'm going to bring you in. What's your response?
So I think when you talk about whether this should be a crime, you have to remember who we're talking about. When I was at the Texas border, I visited with women who had fled violence. A woman from El Salvador owned a small business. Gangs came to her and said, if you don't give us all your money, we're going to kill your family. That's why she fled. Another woman was raped. That's why she fled. So this is who we're talking about, and they're not criminals. So I believe that we should have a civil violation. No president before President Trump enforced the law in the way he has enforced it, because he's using it as the crutch to lock up women and children, to separate mothers and babies, to put them behind bars. So I don't think we should have a law on the books that can be so misused. It should be a civil violation, and we should make sure that we treat people humanely.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Biden. In the first 2 years of the Obama administration, nearly 800,000 immigrants were deported, far more than during President Trump's first 2 years. Would the higher deportation rates resume if you're president?
Absolutely not, number one. Number two, everything landed on the president's desk with locusts. I found that, the secretary, we sat together in many meetings. I never heard him talk about any of this when he was the secretary.
Hey, who are we on?
Please be respectful. Please be respectful in the crowd. Please continue, Mr. Vice President.
Fuck you.
What are they saying?
The fact is,
I don't know.
I don't know if you can hear, I can hear, but anyway.
We can hear fine, Mr. Vice President. Please continue.
The fact is, what the senator from New York talked about is seeking asylum. That woman, the women she spoke to are entitled to asylum.
Or a milkshake.
That is not crossing the border illegally. What we should do is flood the zone to make sure we have people to make those decisions quickly. With regard to the secretary's point, I already proposed and passed $750 million for Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras to be able to change the circumstance why people fled in the first place. In addition to that, we're in a circumstance where if, in fact, you say you can just cross the border, what do you say to all those people around the world who, in fact, want the same thing to come to the United States and make their case, but they don't, that they have to wait in line? The fact of the matter is, you should be able to, if you cross the border illegally, you should be able to be sent back. It's a crime. It's a crime, and it's not one that, in fact...
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Secretary Castro, please respond.
First of all, Mr. Vice President, it looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past and one of us hasn't. Let me begin by telling you, let me just start out by answering that question. My immigration plan would also fix the broken legal immigration system, because we do have a problem with that. Secondly, the only way that we're going to guarantee that these kinds of family separations don't happen in the future is that we need to repeal this law. There's still going to be consequences if somebody crosses the border. It's a civil action. Also, we have 654 miles of fencing. We have thousands of personnel at the border. We have planes, we have boats, we have helicopters, we have security cameras. What we need are politicians that actually have some guts on this issue.
Thank you, Secretary. Mr. Vice President, please respond.
I have guts enough to say his plan doesn't make sense. Here's the deal. The fact of the matter is that, in fact, when people cross the border illegally, it is illegal to do it unless they're seeking asylum. People should have to get in line. That's the problem. And the only reason this particular part of the law is being abused is because of Donald Trump. We should defeat Donald Trump and end this.
Had a bit of brain fart there, Biden.
Thank you. Congresswoman Gabbard, what's your response?
I do love his
brain fart there.
Those children at these detention facilities who've been separated from their parents. When we see human beings crowded into cages in abhorrent, inhumane conditions.
Also, Abby, to answer your question, 3 million deportations is what they were yelling at Biden.
Secure borders, as well as humane immigration policies. We will have to stop separating children from their parents. Make it so that it's easier for people to seek asylum in this country, make sure that we are securing our borders and making it so that people are able to use our legal immigration system by reforming those laws.
I may not.
Your response.
I'm the son of immigrants myself. My father immigrated here as a graduate student and generated over 65 US patents for GE and IBM. I think that's a pretty good deal for the United States. That's the immigration story we need to be telling. We can't always be focusing
but to be fair,
on some of the
law is not really a good excuse
distressed stories. And if you go to a factory here in Michigan, you will not find wall-to-wall immigrants. You will find wall-to-wall robots and machines. Immigrants are being scapegoated for issues they have nothing to do with in our economy.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Senator Booker, you have a plan that would, quote, virtually eliminate immigration detention. Does that mean that the roughly 55,000 migrants currently in detention would be released into the United States.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say again tonight, we are playing into Republican hands who have a very different view, and they're trying to divide us against each other. I'm listening to the language of my colleagues. No, Mr. Vice President, we are not going to just let people cross the border. An unlawful crossing is an unlawful crossing if you do it in the civil courts or if you do it through the criminal courts. But the criminal courts is what is giving Donald Trump the ability to truly violate the human rights of people coming to our country who no one surrenders their human rights. And so doing it through the civil courts means that you won't need these awful detention facilities that I've been to, seeing children sleeping on pavement, people being put in cages, nursing mothers, small children. This is not necessary. We have seen, using the civil system, piloted programs that have 100% compliance with the civil courts, where people are evaluated. If they have no justifiable reason to be here, they are returned. If they are, like the people I met in Juarez, who were survivors of sexual assault, who we wouldn't even let come and present for asylum. We are butchering our values and making ourselves
Senator Booker, thank you very much. Mr. Vice President, your response.
I agree with the senator. The asylum process is a real process, and this president is ruining it. It has nothing to do with that section of the law. That's what he's doing, number one. Number two, we should, in fact, and we have proposed and we tried to get past in our administration, and I proposed significantly increasing the number of legal immigrants who are able to come. This country can tolerate a heck of a lot more people. And the reason we're the country we are is we've been able to cherry pick from the best of every culture. Immigrants built this country. That's why we're so special. It took courage. It took resilience. It took absolute confidence from them to come. And we should be encouraging people. And by the way, anybody who crosses a stage with a PhD should get a green card for 7 years. We should keep them here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Governor Inslee, what's your response?
I think we're missing two central statements we need to make. Number one, we can no longer allow a white nationalist to be in the White House. Number one. Number two, we have to make America what it's always been, a place of refuge. We got to boost the number of people we accept. I'm proud of being the first governor saying, send us your Syrian refugees. I'm proud to have been the first governor to stand up against Donald Trump's Muslim ban. I'm proud to have sued him 21 times and beat him 21 times in a row. I'm ready for November 2020.
Go ahead, Mayor de Blasio, please, your response.
2 points. One, it's all kind of a charade because there's 11 million people here. And everyone, in theory, has broken the law, but they're part of our communities now. They're part of our economy. They're our neighbors. Why are we even discussing on one level whether it's a civil penalty or a criminal penalty when it's an American reality? And what we need is comprehensive immigration reform once and for all to fix it. Second, Vice President Biden, I didn't hear your response when the issue came up of all those deportations. You were Vice President of the United States. I didn't hear whether you tried to stop them or not using your power, your influence in the White House. Did you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was something that needed to be stopped?
The president came along, and he's the guy that came up with the idea, first time ever, of dealing with the Dreamers. He put that in the law. He talked about a comprehensive plan, which he laid before the Congress, saying that we should find a pathway to citizenship for people. He said we should up the number of people that we're able to bring into this country. Lastly, he also pointed out that we should go to the source of the problem and fix it where people were leaving in the first place. So to compare him to Donald Trump, I think is absolutely bizarre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Congresswoman Gabbard, you are a co-sponsor of the College for All Act, which would make public colleges and universities free for all Americans. One of the authors of that plan, Senator Sanders, believes college should be tuition-free for undocumented immigrants as well. Do you?
I don't. I think it's important for us to fix our legal immigration system and look at the millions of undocumented immigrants in this country who have been suffering as they've been living in the shadows. And instead of putting a Band-Aid on this problem, fix our legal immigration system to provide them with that pathway to legal residency or citizenship so that they're no longer treated as second-class citizens in this country. We've got to look at the challenge that people all across this country are facing under crushing student debt. This is something that is impacting my generation in a huge way, and I believe that it is our generation that has the bold, creative solutions to be able to solve it. This is about promise for our future, and we've got to make those kinds of investments.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Mayor de Blasio, what's your response?
Yeah, I agree with the Congress member, but I don't hear an answer from the Vice President. I'm confused. I asked the Vice President point blank,
she spoke like,
did he use his power to stop those deportations? He went right around the question. Mr. Vice President, you want to be President of the United States, you need to be able to answer the tough questions. I guarantee you, if you're debating Donald Trump, he's not going to let you off the hook. So did you say those deportations were a good idea? Or did you go to the president and say, this is a mistake, we shouldn't do it? Which one?
I was vice president. I am not the president. I keep my recommendation in private. Unlike you, I expect you would go ahead and say whatever was said privately with him. That's not what I do. What I do say to you is he moved to fundamentally change the system. That's what he did. That's what he did. But much more has to be done. Much more has to be done.
I still don't hear an answer.
Senator Booker, please respond.
Well, a couple things. First of all, Mr. Vice President, you can't have it both ways. You invoke President Obama more than anybody in this campaign. You can't do it when it's convenient and then dodge it when it's not. And the second thing, and this really irks me because I heard the Vice President.
So looks like I was right about Castro being one of the people who would attack Biden.
What the Republicans want, to pit some immigrants against other immigrants. Some are from shithole countries and some are from worthy countries. We need to reform this whole immigration system and begin to be the country that says everyone has worth and dignity, and this should be a country that honors everyone. Don't let the Republicans divide this party against itself.
Senator, thank you. Mr. Vice President,
the fact is, that's what I said about this country. We are a country of immigrants. All of us. All of us. Some here came against their will. Others came because they, in fact, thought they could fundamentally change their lives, and they did. The statute of send us your. That's what we're talking about. That's what made us great. And the fact of the matter is, I think the President of the United States, Barack Obama, went out of his way to try to change the system, and he got pushed back significantly.
Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
Again, President Trump, under his administration, 7 children died in his custody. Under his administration, families have been torn apart. This party is talking about real ideas for the future. We're talking about what we will do to change America, but we must not forget about our values. We used to believe in this country you should treat others the way you want to be treated. We used to believe in this country we should care about the least among us. Let's remind the American people who we are, why we are Democrats, and why we're running for president.
Senator Gillibrand, thank you very much. The debate will be right back right after this short break.
I will figure out how to speak again because I'm from CNN and I suck.
Galbert there. Oh, that was like fucking boilerplate. I don't even know what the fuck that was. That generic ass statement about America?
I mean, she might have been, we might have been wrong with predicting who has the stroke tonight.
She did give a pretty generic answer, but honestly, she's not getting asked any friggin' questions.
Oh no, most of it's just been fucking pretty much attacking Biden, which is a good sign in my opinion, but...
Yeah, because Biden is terrible. He should probably be gone already.
Well, I thought at the beginning of this, I thought it was just going to turn into pretty much like, yeah, Harris spoke up against Biden, so we're going to just like pretty much make sure she doesn't have a campaign after this. But no,
I think CNN is definitely like trying to send Biden up the chain, and anybody, they're obviously letting Biden talk a heck of a lot more than anybody else, and they're trying to get a cat fight. They didn't get it last night, and they really think they can get it tonight, and they're actually getting some bites tonight from Harris and from Castro.
Well, to be honest, like it's not. Pretty much, it's just.
You missed it earlier, Abby, but I made the comparison of like what like the fucking shills are doing to Biden to when like buffalo or like triceratops circle to protect their young.
Well, I mean, yeah, Biden is the establishment, but none of the people on the stage right now tonight I don't think they could beat Trump.
I'll be honest. I'm heavily convinced at this point it's been a conscious decision in both of these last two debates, like, to not have Elizabeth Warren on the same stage as Biden.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're definitely doing a send up of Biden and Harris for this one. And they wanted to have Warren and Sanders eat each other last night. They wanted to have them eat each other.
Yeah, they
and they didn't. They wouldn't. And the other thing was a huge surprise from last night was what's her name? Marianne.
Yeah, Orbs.
Marianne Williamson. Yeah.
Orb gang.
She's sending all the energy. She has all the light energy, and she's sending it towards her.
Well, to be fair, like, she was completely off my radar up until that Dave Rubin thing. But did you see that?
She is okay. As much as I think she's a very weird person, and she has some very strange ideas. She wrote in a book that you can heal HIV with prayer.
She's a complete nerve fucking like quack.
She is, but she could, because she's, I don't know, just the right kind of crazy. She could beat Trump because Trump knows crazy.
I mean, I brought it up with Marianne like during the first debate because I didn't know who the fuck she was either. I was like, immediately, I was like, oh, she's just doing like left-wing Trump shit.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic presidential debate. We are live from Detroit. I want to turn now to criminal justice of Mr. Vice President. Senator Booker called your new criminal justice reform plan, quote, an inadequate solution to what is a raging crisis in our country, unquote. Why is Senator Booker wrong?
Well, I think he is wrong. I think we should work together. He has a similar plan. I think we should change the way we look at prisons. Right now, we're in a situation where when someone is convicted of a drug crime, they end up going to jail and to prison. They should be going to rehabilitation. They shouldn't be going to prison. When in prison, they should be learning to read and write and not just sit in there and learn how to be better criminals. And when they get out of prison, they should be in a situation where they have access to everything they would have had before, including Pell Grants for education, including making sure that they're able to have housing, public housing, including they have all the opportunities that were available to them because we want them to become better citizens. That's the essence of what my plan in detail lays out. I'm happy to discuss it more in detail if the senator wants to. And so I looked at it anyway. That's what I think my plan does. I know what my plan does, and I think it's not dissimilar to what the senator said. We should be working together on getting things done.
Senator Booker, your response?
Well, my response is that this is a crisis in our country because we have treated issues of race and poverty, mental health and addiction with locking people up and not lifting them up. And Mr. Vice President has said that since the 1970s, every major crime bill, major and minor, has had his name on it. And sir, those are your words, not mine. And this is one of those instances where the House was set on fire and you claimed responsibility for those laws. And you can't just now come out with a plan to put out that fire. We have got to have far more bold action on criminal justice reform, like having true marijuana justice, which means that we legalize it on a federal level and reinvest the profits in communities that are disproportionately targeted by marijuana.
Vice President Biden, I want to give you a chance to respond.
No,
the fact is that
Booker, you have him in a spot.
The future president here, that the senator is talking about are bills that were passed years ago, and they're passed overwhelmingly. Since 2007, I, for example, tried to get the crack powder cocaine disparity totally eliminated. In 2007, you became mayor. You had a police department you went out and you hired Rudy Giuliani's guy. You engaged in stop and frisk. You had 75% of those stops reviewed as illegal.
I did a bad thing and you did a bad thing, so that invalidates the bad thing I did.
Were caught in that chain and caught up.
Biden,
the Justice Department came after you for saying you were engaging in behavior that was inappropriate. And then, in fact, nothing happened. the entire time you were mayor.
Thank you, Senator Booker. You want to respond?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful that he endorsed my presidency already. But I'll tell you this: it's no secret that I inherited a criminal
quick side note
with massive problems and decades-long challenges. But the head of the ACLU has already said, the head of the New Jersey ACLU, that I put forth national standard-setting accountability.
Is he gonna be smart about it?
Mr. Vice President,
like a fucking
I didn't interrupt you.
Something, but
please show me that respect, sir.
The fuck?
We have a system right now that's broken. And if you want to compare records, and frankly, I'm shocked that you do, I am happy to do that, because all of the problems that he is talking about that he created, I actually led the bill that got passed into law that reverses the damage that your bills that you were, frankly, to correct you, Mr. Vice President, you were bragging, calling it the Biden crime bill up till 2015.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Biden.
Number one, the bill he talks about is a bill that in our administration we passed. We passed that bill that you added on to. That's the bill, in fact, you passed. And the fact of the matter is, secondly, there was nothing done for the entire 8 years he was mayor. There was nothing done to deal with the police department that was corrupt. Why did you announce on the first day a zero tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community: you're dipping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. You need to come to the city of Newark and see the reforms that we put in place. The New Jersey head of the ACLU has said that I embraced reforms, not just in action, but in deed. Sir, you are trying to shift the view from what you created. There are people right now in prison for life for drug offenses because you stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric that got a lot of people elected, but destroyed communities like mine. This isn't about the past, sir. This is about the present right now. I believe in redemption.
Senator.
I'm happy you evolved.
I want to bring in
but
Secretary.
you offered no redemption to the people in prison right now.
I want to bring in Secretary Castro. Your response, sir?
Yeah, I agree with Senator Booker that a lot of what Vice President helped author in '94 was a mistake. And he has flip-flopped on these things, and that's clear. But let me say, when we talk about criminal justice reform, there are a lot of things that we can talk about: sentencing reform, cash bail reform, investing in public defenders, diversion programs. I'm proud that I'm the only candidate that has put forward a police reform plan, because we have a police system that is broken and we need to fix it. And whether it's the case of someone like Tamir Rice or Michael Brown, or Eric Garner.
You don't want to elect anybody
the
like
Justice Department just decided not to pursue charges. We need to ensure we have a national use of force standard, and that we end qualified immunity for police officers so that we can hold them accountable for using excessive force.
I want to bring in Governor Inslee. Governor Inslee, your response?
Let me suggest that people come out to the state of Washington and see what criminal justice reform looks like. Our effort to reduce racial disparity.
Yeah,
I'm proud that I was the first governor to offer pardons to thousands of people with drug crimes. Now we're vacating more tens of thousands. We've eliminated the death penalty. And importantly, we've done this. When people come out of the legal system,
like the
and they've
Mississippi,
done
all
their
those states are
responsibility to
blended
the
into me.
we need to make sure they can get a job. We have banned the box so that people can actually get a job when they come out. And I've got to argue with my friend Secretary Castro. We haven't just put forward a plan. We've adopted probably one of the best police accountability measures and train our police officers in de-escalation techniques. So we have less violence.
Also, Secretary Castro, your
how does CJ feel about like him being hit
this was a good
during the last debate, but like I'm able to do this without like it's like the Zorro world where I'm not being flagged for something.
Officer Pantaleo used a chokehold that was prohibited by NYPD. He did that for 7 seconds, 11 different times.
I was saying that earlier. I was like, all these, like a lot of people are complaining, and it's like, just do the audio.
That police officer should be off the street.
Mayor de Blasio?
Swear to God, it's literally because of showing video. That's why you get caught pretty much any time nowadays.
Please respond.
Let me tell you, I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They're waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department. which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There will never be another Eric Garner because we're changing fundamentally.
By the way, we still have an hour left.
About the Justice Department. The Vice President, for 2.5 of those years, Mr. Vice President, tell us.
Yeah, it's really tedious, isn't it?
On Justice Department.
I have really, unlike the first debate where
Vice President Biden,
Sanders sent the mood with the entire
"You're wrong." Made sure we reduced the federal prison population by 38,000 people.
This is like you saw how fucking Booker there, like he had fucking
changed the rules
Biden on something, and he is doing this fucking like 17-step not trying to fucking offend Biden bullshit to say you're pretty much a piece of shit.
Were released.
But that's the thing. Probably what makes this whole debate feel like it's longer is because it's the Biden show. We're not hearing from other people other than to rebut Biden or to say Biden you're crap.
Yeah.
Barack Obama. And you know what's fucked up too? Like this is supposed to be the more energetic, more aggressive Biden.
Everything about me and civil rights and civil liberties.
Yeah, like I said,
it's
supposed to be energetic.
Mr. Yang.
This is interject Biden. I want to see the universe for Biden.
I speak for just about everyone watching when I say I would trust anyone on the stage much more than I would trust our current president on matters of criminal justice. We cannot.
I've seen fucking sea sponges with more fucking energy.
I want to share a story that a prison guard, a corrections officer in New Hampshire said to me. He said, we should pay people to stay out of jail because we spend so much when they're behind bars.
I really can't wait for the third debate because there's no protecting Biden then. Like Warren's going to be on the same stage as him and she's going to knock his fucking teeth out.
I want to bring in Senator Gillibrand.
Someone could. I mean, someone needs to.
On the question, why who killed Eric Garner?
If you thought fucking what Warren did, Delaney was murder.
No,
she's gonna fucking like super murder Biden.
I sat down with Eric Garner's mother, and I can tell you, when you lost your son, when he begged for breath, when you know
exactly, like the whole reason she decided to get into politics was because of Biden's bullshit fucking banking bills.
An illegal chokehold. That person should be fired. And as I was. If I was the mayor, I'd fire him. But as president, I would make sure that we had a full investigation. That there were.
You know what it's like? It's like in the first Conan movie. Like the only reason Conan became Conan was because of fucking.
You have also been quite critical.
Or James Earl Jones.
President Biden's policies on race, specifically on the issue of busing in the 1970s, having benefited from busing when you were a young child. Vice President Biden says that your current position on busing, you're opposed to federally mandated busing, that position is the same as his position. Is he right?
That is simply false. And let's be very clear about this. When Vice President Biden was in the United States Senate working with segregationists to oppose busing, which was the vehicle by which we would integrate America's public schools, had I been in the United States Senate at that time, I would have been completely on the other side of the aisle. And let's be clear about this. Had those segregationists their way, I would not be a member of the United States Senate. Cory Booker would not be a member of the United States Senate. And Barack Obama would not have been in a position to nominate him to the title he now holds. And so on that issue, we could not be more apart, which is that the vice president has still failed to acknowledge that it was wrong to take the position that he took at that time. Now, I would like to also talk about this conversation about Eric Garner, because I too met with his mother. And one of the things that we've got to be clear about is that this president of the United States, Donald Trump, while he has been in office, has quietly
also Monsieur John Malleus was the fucking inspiration for Walter from The Big Lebowski.
Practice investigations on that case. We also
a little movie factoid for everybody.
Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice said charges should have been filed, but this United States Department of Justice usurped, and I believe it is because that president did not want those charges to go forward, and they overrode a decision by the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice. Under my administration, the Civil Rights Division will reign, and there will be independent investigations.
Vice President Biden, I want to give you a chance to respond.
You know what also isn't helping Biden? Like, he's the only one who's actually obeying the rules.
In the state of California.
Like, he doesn't try to press any of his points past when the moderator.
San Francisco. And she did not, like, I didn't see a
it makes him look weak.
She brought a case against them to say good. Secondly, she also was in a situation where she had a police department when she was there that in fact was abusing people's rights. And the fact was that she in fact was told
I go by
her
SpongeBob here. How many times do we have to tell you this message, old man?
Disclose to defense attorneys like me that you, in fact, have been, the police officer did something that did not give you information would exculpate your.
To be fair, liberalism. He is a fucking politician from New Jersey. They all sound like that.
He said enough, and he freed 1,000 of these people. If you doubt me,
how dare you, ageist of me?
Vice President Biden and Senator Harris, your response?
Well, Biden finally did fucking push the point.
True. And as Attorney General of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, I am proud of the work we did, work that has received national recognition for what has been the important work of reforming a criminal justice system.
Incarcerating Black people than ever? Wow, good job. Good job, Kamala.
Again,
it was the work of creating one of the first in the nation initiatives around.
It is really unfortunate her name goes so well, like rhyming with cop.
On special agents in the state of California, and I'm proud of
it's like she was destined for the term cop mala.
With Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate, you called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country.
I knocked over my tea. I'll be back in a second. I need
proud of her record
that's a really cool
as
question.
a prosecutor, and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence.
You do it. You go for her.
And from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General,
and we were waiting for Harris to punch Biden, but apparently she was waiting to punch Harris.
Significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
Bring Gabbard back in.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been opposed.
Gabby.
That has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision, to face the people I have faced, to say, I will not seek the death penalty. That is my background. That is my work. I am proud of it. I think you can judge people by when they are under fire, and it's not about some fancy opinion on a stage, but when they're in the position to actually make a decision, what do they do? When I was in the position of having to decide whether or not to seek a death penalty on cases I prosecuted. I made a very difficult
you've been
decision
charged and
that
found
was not
wanting.
popular to
And then
not
you
seek.
allowed them to be in jail and work longer than they should have for some cheap slave
Senator
labor so
Bennett,
that you wouldn't have to pay anybody to do it.
Yeah.
I'm back with fresh
judged for no,
by
dude,
the
you missed
president's
it.
racist rhetoric.
Yeah, first of all,
shit, I missed
the
it.
president's racist
You
rhetoric
don't
should
know.
be
Fucking
enough
the one
grounds
woman,
for everybody
what's her
in this
name?
country
Abby?
to vote him out of office. That one
It's
thing alone.
Gabbard. It's totally.
Second,
Yeah,
John,
Gabbard fucking
I want to answer your question
had
by
a good
tagging
blow
on the
against fucking
conversation we were
Harris.
just having. This is the fourth debate that
Gabbard
we
just
have
brought up
had,
Harris's
and
entire
the
fucking
second
brought up
time that we have been
prosecution
debating
record,
what
much.
people did 50 years ago with
Well,
busing.
sorry, not
when
prosecution,
our
her
schools
running
are
like the Department of
segregated
like
today
Law or
as they
Justice or
were
whatever in
50 years ago.
California.
We need a conversation about what's happening now. And when there's a group of kids in this country that don't get preschool through no fault of their own, and another group does, equal is not equal. And we've got a group of K-12 schools that are good because families can spend $1 million, and you've got the Detroit public schools that are as segregated as they were. Equal is not equal. And let me tell you something else, Don.
Hey, Marvin the Martian's making some good points.
You can draw a straight line from slavery through
Oh my God, I was trying to place his voice. Thank you.
incarceration that we were
I know, right?
a few minutes ago.
There's
You know what?
a shatter kaboom.
I was thinking Barney a little bit from Simpsons, but no, it's Marvin the Martian. You're right.
The prison pipeline that we have.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. Governor Inslee, what's your response? Governor Inslee, please respond.
He is he really does like the fucking Jordan Peterson
because I have not experienced what many Americans have. I've never been a black teenager pulled over in a white neighborhood. I've never been a woman talked over in a meeting. I've never been an LGBTQ member subject to a slur. And so I have believed I have an added responsibility, a double responsibility to deal with racial disparity. And we've talked on the way we do it, including ending the school to prison pipeline in my state. But I want to say this, and this is a common error, that every single senator on this stage, as much as I respect them all, they all have an enormous error, which is going to prevent our party from making any progressive progress in the United States. And it is this: we are all going to work like the Dickens to get more Democrats elected to the Senate, right? We are going to do that. And I hope we're going to succeed. But if we get a majority in the US Senate, because of the position of these senators, not a damn thing's going to get done. And I'll tell you why. With all their good intentions, and I know they're very sincere and passionate, and I respect them enormously. But because they embrace this antediluvial, a supermajority thing called the filibuster, Mitch McConnell is going to run the U.S. Senate, even if we take a majority. We got to get rid of the filibuster so we can make progress.
That's legitimately the only reason I like Inslee in the least.
See, here's the deal, though. They get rid of filibuster. It means no one can have it. It means the amount of time
right here in
that
Detroit, as well as Baltimore, Cleveland, New Orleans. And I saw that the racial disparities are much worse than I'd ever imagined. They're even worse. Somebody just came out and projected the average African American.
I mean, I'll be honest, I would be fine with that.
That requires the Democrats
to ask yourself, how is that possible? It's possible
because if you look at the history of the filibuster, it's been used mostly by Republicans, especially to block civil rights legislation.
Truck drivers, the most common job in 29 states, including this one. And you know who suffers most in a natural disaster? It's people of color, people who have lower levels of capital and education and resources. So what are we going to do about it? We should just go back to the writings of Martin Luther King, who in 1967, his book Chaos or Community, said we need a guaranteed minimum income in the United States of America. That is the most effective way for us to address racial inequality in a genuine way and give every American a chance in the 21st century economy.
Mr. Yang, thank you very much. Secretary Castro, after the president's racist tweets attacking Baltimore and Congressman Elijah Cummings, the mayor of Baltimore slammed the tweets and said to the president, and I quote here, "Help us. Send the resources that we need to rebuild America." So what would you do for Baltimore and other cities that need help?
First of all, the president is a racist, and that was just one more example of it. We know that.
I forget, Abby, has CJ ever been to Baltimore? Because I was talking about this.
Yes,
Trump technically isn't wrong about Baltimore.
No, but I mean, he's also technically not wrong about a lot of cities.
Invest in universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds.
But you know what the big irony of it? West Baltimore, the worst part of Baltimore, is the predominantly white part of Baltimore.
State universities, community colleges, job training and certification programs. I would follow up.
They have rat problems. I want to know one of the statistically voted most beautiful cities in the United States.
This Trump administration set that back. I would put that back in order.
What has a really bad pest problem?
Affordable.
St. Paul.
The rent is going through the roof, and we need to make sure that you don't have to.
I mean, yeah, like here's the thing: the rat problem. A big problem with the rat problem is like Baltimore's a port city, so you're always going to get fucking rats.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
We had a huge mouse problem and rat problem because we were redoing our sewers, and it kind of drove them out of the sewers into people's houses.
The only voice that takes on these issues of institutional racism.
Rats are going to be where people are. What you got to do is you just got to address it, and everybody's going to have a rat problem because that's where they live.
Also, you know, like a lot of people brought up, if you want to talk about real pest-ridden shitholes, New York City's probably on the top of the list.
It actually is. That was their son walking down the street with a bag of M&Ms in his pocket, wearing a hoodie.
How many humans
what protects him from not being shot?
Did I ever tell you, Abby, that when I was a little kid, I went on a field trip to New York. I mean, not New York, Washington.
Someone's door for help. And the door opens and the help is given.
And I saw a fucking rat eat a squirrel.
That's what white privilege in America is today.
And so my rats will eat whatever the heck they can have the opportunity to eat.
Across America, like I did in Youngstown, Ohio, to a young mother, that this is all of our responsibilities and that together we can make our community stronger.
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. Let's now turn to the issue of the climate crisis. The United Nations says the world needs to cut all carbon emissions by 2050 or risk facing disastrous consequences.
What?
Governor Inslee, many of your fellow Democratic candidates say climate change is
to be fair, Skull, deer, like I always love to say, deers are just rats with hooves.
Didn't you know that the others don't?
Well, I know the firsthand terrific impact of climate change on Americans across the country already.
They just walk through town like it's
the family who I saw with their aluminum home now
they
just
don't care about cars or anything. It's fucking weird.
They lost everything.
And it's not just like
the
moms
paradise
like, you know,
of fires. The nonprofit in Davenport, Iowa, that was washed away in the floods. We have to act now. Climate change is not
but still kind of, you know,
it is all the issues that we Democrats care about. It is health. It is national security. It is our economy. And we know this. Middle ground solutions, like the vice president has proposed, or sort of middling.
Also, another thing that fucks up Baltimore with the rat problem is Baltimore has a lot of historical buildings that they're not allowed to touch.
We have a gold plan, and mine has been called the gold standard. Now, we also need to embed environmental justice. I was in zip code 48217 in the Detroit neighborhood the other day, right next to an oil refinery where the kids have asthma and they have cancer clusters. And after talking to these folks, I believe this. It doesn't matter what your zip code is. It doesn't matter what your color is. You ought to have clean air and clean water in America. That's
Vice what I President Biden, I'd like to get you to respond. Governor Inslee just said that your plan is middling.
There's no middle ground about my plan. The fact of the matter is, I call for the immediate action to be taken. First of all, one of the things that we're responsible for 15% of all the pollution in the country. He's right about how it affects people, and it affects neighborhoods, particularly poor neighborhoods. But here's the deal. In that area, there's also another piece. 85% of it is something I helped negotiate, and that is the Paris Climate Accord. I would immediately rejoin that Paris Accord. I would make sure that we up the ante, which it calls for. I would be able to bring those leaders together who I know. I'd convene them in the White House like we did in the nuclear summit, and I would raise the standard.
Thank you,
I also invest $400 billion in research for new alternatives to deal with climate change.
Mr. Yang,
and that's
your
bigger than any other person.
The important number in Vice President Biden's remarks just now is that the United States is only 15% of global emissions. We like to act as if we're 100%, but the truth is, even if we were to curb our emissions dramatically, the Earth is still going to get warmer. And we can see it around us this summer. The last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years in recorded history. This is going to be a tough truth, but we are too late. We are 10 years too late. We need to do everything we can to start moving the climate in the right direction, but we also need to start moving our people to higher ground. And the best way to do that is to put economic resources into your hands so you can protect yourself and your families.
I was challenged by the Vice
Senator.
President. Maybe you heard on this for a moment.
Go ahead, Governor.
Thank you very much. Look, these deadlines are set by science. Mr. Vice President, your argument
so invest in my
not with me, it's
biodome
with
coming
science.
to you soon.
And unfortunately, your plan is just too late. The science tells us we have to get off coal in 10 years. Yes. Your plan does not do that. We have to have off of fossil fuels in our electrical grid in 15. Your plan simply does not do that. I've heard you say that we need a realistic plan. Here's what I believe.
No, I didn't say that.
Here's what I believe. I believe that survival is realistic, and that's the kind of plan we need, and that's the kind I have.
My plan calls for 500,000 charging stations around the country. So by 2030, we're all electric vehicles. My plan calls for making sure that we have $400 billion invested in technologies to learn how to contain what we're doing, creating 10 million new jobs. We will double offshore wind. We will end any subsidies for coal or any other fossil fuel. But we have to also engage the world while we're doing it. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to clarify, would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
We cannot work it out. We cannot work this out. The time is up. Our house is on fire. We have to stop using coal in 10 years. And we need a president to do it or it won't get done. Get off coal, save this country and the planet. That's what I'm for.
Senator Harris, your response?
I mean, I have to agree with Governor Inslee, and I'm going to just paraphrase one of your great sayings, Governor, which is we currently have a president in the White House who obviously does not understand the science. He's been pushing science fiction instead of science fact. The guy thinks that wind turbines cause cancer, but what in fact they cause is jobs. And the reality is that I would take any Democrat on this stage over the current president of the United States, who is rolling it back to our collective peril. We must have and adopt a Green New Deal. On day one as president, I would re-enter us in the Paris Agreement and put in place so we would be carbon neutral by 2030.
Thank you, Senator. I want to talk about that with Senator Gillibrand. You are co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, which includes the guarantee of a job with medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security for everyone in America. Explain how that's realistic.
So the first thing that I'm going to do when I'm president is I'm going to Clorox the Oval Office. The second thing I'm going to do is I will re-engage on global climate change. And I will not only sign the Paris Global Climate Accords, but I will lead a worldwide conversation about the urgency of this crisis. The greatest threat to humanity is global climate change. I visited a family in Iowa who water spewed into her home, Fran Parr. It tossed her refrigerator upend. All the furniture was broken, all the dishes were broken, and mud was everywhere. That is the impact of severe weather right now on families' lives. And so the truth is we need a robust solution. When John F. Kennedy said, I want to put a man on the moon in the next 10 years, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. He knew it was going to be a measure of our innovation, our success, our ability to galvanize worldwide competition. He wanted to have a space race with Russia. Why not have a green energy race with China? Why not have clean air and clean water for all Americans? Why not rebuild our infrastructure? Why not actually invest in the green jobs? That's what the Green New Deal is about.
Thank you.
Not only will I pass it, but I will put a price on carbon to make market forces help us.
Thank you, Senator. Congresswoman Gabbard, you are not a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Please respond.
Oh, first of all, this is
Can you be a landlord if you own a houseboat?
The most remote island chain in the world. So for us, growing up there, protecting our environment was not a political issue. It's a way of life.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Who we are. This is why, as a member of Congress, long before there was ever a Green New Deal,
Why?
I introduced the most ambitious climate change legislation ever in Congress, called the Off Fossil Fuels Act. That actually laid out an actionable plan to take us from where we are today to transition off of fossil fuels and invest in green renewable energy, invest in workforce training, invest in the kinds of infrastructure that we need to deal with the problems and the challenges that climate is posing to us today.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Booker, what's your response? Is the job guarantee in the Green New Deal realistic?
I just want to take, first of all, a step back and say that I agree wholeheartedly with Governor Inslee. It's one of the reasons why Greenpeace ranks me and him at the top of this entire field of their candidates on climate.
Close. Second, but close. You're just close.
I want to say very clearly, thank you, man. Thank you. I'll try harder. Look, the reason why is because, first of all, this problem didn't start yesterday. Science didn't become a reality yesterday. This has been going on for years. There was another president that would not join an international accord. Then it was the Kyoto Accords. I was mayor then, and I stood up in national leadership, joining with other mayors to say climate change is not a separate issue. It must be the issue and the lens with which we view every issue. Nobody should get applause for rejoining the Paris Climate Accords. That is kindergarten. We have to go to far advanced and make sure that everything from our trade deals, everything from the billions of dollars we spend to foreign aid, everything must be sublimated to the challenge and the crisis that is existential, which is dealing with the climate threat. And yes, the majority of this problem is outside the United States, but the only way we're going to deal with this is if the United States leads.
Thank you, Senator. Mayor de Blasio. Your administration has come under fire after hundreds of children living in New York City public housing tested positive for elevated levels of lead. As you know, we're not far from Flint, Michigan, where residents are still dealing with the consequences of having lead in their drinking water. How can you assure the people of Flint and across the nation that you are the right person to handle such a problem?
We have a huge problem, and it's decades old in New York, but here's what we've done about it. We've declared the eradication of all lead, literally ending the notion of lead poisoning once and for all as the goal of our administration.
I have physically destroyed the very concept of lead.
Since 2005, and we're going to literally bring it down to zero. Because we're going to go into every place, buildings, schools, public housing, and take out that lead, remediate that lead once and for all. And that needs to be done all over this country. Now, the federal government used to not take any responsibility for our public housing. For decades, they've been
legitimately mad at you, Skull, because I didn't think, as the comic book nerd, I should have went with that.
Lead prices to begin with. But I'll tell you what you do when you're actually in charge of something. I'm in charge of the largest city in this nation. You do not accept the status quo, you fix it. And so we are going into every one of those apartments to make sure those children and those families are safe. And then we are going to eradicate that lead once and for all. And there should be a federal mandate to do the same for Flint, for Detroit, for every place in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It can be done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Secretary Castro, why are you the right candidate to solve this problem? Please respond.
Well, because people don't have to wonder what I would do. I've actually done it. I was Secretary of Housing and Urban Development when Flint had its water crisis. I went to Flint. We did what we could to help folks get water filters. And then we didn't stop there. We improved the standard of how we deal with elevated blood lead levels in children. A lot of Americans don't know that this is still a major problem out there. I was back in Flint about 6 weeks ago, and I released a plan to invest $50 billion so that we remove lead as a major public health threat. We need to do it, we can do it, and I will do it.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Donald Trump won independence here in Michigan by 16 percentage points, which was critical to Donald Trump winning the state's 16 electoral votes. Now there is a big debate within the Democratic Party here and around the country about the best way.
Imagine so. Didn't you guys do a bunch of like soldering and welding and shit?
Last time on this stage, Senator Elizabeth Warren said, quote, "We're not going to solve the urgent problems that we face with small ideas and spinelessness. We're going to solve them by being the Democratic Party of big structural change." What do you say to progressives who worry that your proposals are not ambitious enough to energize the progressive wing of your party, which you will need to beat Donald Trump?
Because we did it. I was asked to manage an $87 billion plan to be spent in a total of 18 months that revived this state and many others. and it kept us out of a depression with 0.2% of waste or fraud. Secondly, I was part of the organization and within our administration that pushed bailing General Motors out, saving tens of thousands of jobs here in this state. Number three.
Yeah.
I also was asked, as the mayor of Detroit can tell you, by the President of the United States to help Detroit get out of bankruptcy and get back on its feet. I spent better part of 2 years out here working to make sure that it did exactly that. We invested significantly in this city when transportation, anyway, the point is we've made significant investments in this state. I expect in this city, that's why the mayor endorsed me.
Thank you, Vice President Biden.
Endorse the senator.
Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
To the people in Michigan,
Adam.
I know exactly how I beat President Trump. I've already done it. I took a bus tour to talk about Trump's
You're the most boring debate.
He promised no bad trade deals. Not only did he not have bad trade deals, he started a trade war with China, and he just signed on a bad trade agreement with NAFTA 2.0, a giveaway to drug companies in Mexico.
Everybody failed on that job guarantee question.
Telling people that he's
if you were really trying to sell the Green New Deal, right?
I lifted up their
you
voices
answer that job guarantee question
and it offered real solutions.
If we are going to actually rebuild our infrastructure, if we are actually going to build the green infrastructure we need, if we are actually going to build high-speed railway coast to coast, if we're going to fix public housing, the problem is not going to be finding enough jobs for people. It's going to be the problem is going to be finding enough people for all the jobs we need to do.
President Trump is more important to them than having a nominee who agrees with them on major issues. And right now, according to polls, they say the candidate who has the best chance of doing that, of beating President Trump, is Vice President Biden. Why are they wrong?
Well, I'm building a coalition of disaffected Trump voters, independents, libertarians, and conservatives, as well as Democrats and progressives. I believe I'm the candidate best suited to beat Donald Trump. And as for how to win in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania, the problem is that so many people feel like the economy has left them behind. What we have to do is we have to say, look, there's record high GDP and stock market prices. You know what else are at record highs? Suicides, drug overdoses, depression, anxiety. It's gotten so bad that American life expectancy has declined for the last 3 years. And I like to talk about my wife who's at home with our 2 boys right now, one of whom is autistic. What does her work count at in today's economy? 0, and we know that's the opposite of the truth. We know that her work is among the most challenging and vital. The way we win this election is we redefine economic progress to include all the things that matter to the people in Michigan and all of us, like our own health, our well-being, our mental health, our clean air and clean water, how our kids are doing. If we change the measurements for the 21st century economy to revolve around our own well-being, then we will win this election.
Congresswoman Gabbard, your response?
Donald Trump won this election because far too many people in this country felt like they've been left behind by both political parties, by self-serving politicians on both sides who are more interested in partisan politics than they are in actually fighting for the people. I'm speaking the truth to people all across this country about the fact that people in Flint, Michigan are still being left behind, still being poisoned by the water in their system, because every single month we are spending $4 billion on a continuing war in Afghanistan. $4 billion every single month, rather than ending that war, bringing our troops home and using those precious resources into serving the needs of the people here in this country, people and communities like Flint. That's the kind of leadership that I'll bring.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Booker, your response?
I'm grateful, Jake. Look, this is one of those times where we're not staring at the truth and calling it out. And this is a case for the Democratic Party. The truth will set us free. We lost the state of Michigan because everybody from Republicans to Russians were targeting the suppression of African-American voters. We need to say that. If the African-American vote in this state had been like it was 4 years earlier, we would have won the state of Michigan. We need to have a campaign that is ready for what's coming. An all-out assault, especially on the most valuable voter group in the highest performing voter group in our coalition, which is Black women. And so I will be a person that tries to fight against voter suppression, that can activate and engage the kind of voters and coalitions that are going to win states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
First of all, Donald Trump came in making a whole lot of promises to working people that he did not keep. He said he was going to help farmers. He said he was going to help auto workers. Farmers are now looking at bankruptcy, soybeans rotting in bills. Auto workers, we expect perhaps hundreds of thousands will be out of jobs by the end of the year. Jerome Powell just dropped the interest rates, and he admitted why. Because of this so-called trade policy that this president has that has been nothing more than the Trump trade tax that has resulted in American families spending as much as $1.4 billion more a month on everything from shampoo to washing machines. He betrayed the American people. He betrayed American families, and he will lose this election because folks are clear that he has done nothing except try to beat people down instead of lift people up. And that's what we want in the next president of the United States.
Thank you, Senator Harris. The debate is back right after this short break.
Oh boy, another break.
Oh, fucking finally.
So has anybody been standing out so far?
The only real moment out of here that stood out to me was Gabbard going after Harris when it comes to her, pretty much how she ran like California's Department of Justice or Department of Law, whatever.
Yeah, Booker and Castro have had a couple of good thumps on Biden.
Mm-hmm. Though I would still argue any of the energy that Booker would have gotten from that thump was completely lost in like him taking an extra minute to fucking like be cordial with fucking Biden and shit.
But yeah, this debate's fucking just the worst.
Just straight up boring.
Yeah, it's been white noise. A lot of it's just been white noise.
It doesn't help that they keep fucking giving Biden the most time. Again, this is supposed to be the energetic, aggressive Biden. And this motherfucker thinks he can debate Trump.
Yeah, he definitely can't debate Trump. Like, do you see how like he just got stomped on about his environmental plan? Like, even though he was being attacked in sort of a silly way, he just couldn't defend it. He's like, no, that is my plan. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Have I mentioned that I know Obama?
I know world leaders already.
Yeah, actually, you did miss that. I think Booker and I think someone else. I think it was Castro. They did call fucking Biden out on that shit. Because like when it came to questions him being directed, he would immediately like go over to Obama, and they pointed out that you can't just keep fucking like going back to Obama's record when it comes to X, but when it doesn't look good, you just like I don't know what you're talking about.
I wonder if the reason Diamond wasn't here is because he was one of the people who yelled.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It didn't sound like Diamond, so...
It was me.
When I was younger, I wanted to live my life exactly like yours. You're really milking this thing for all.
What was that?
That was Skull accidentally clicking on something on Twitch and not realizing that, oh fuck, that's still being fed in because...
That's fine. I thought it was like the commercial for a split second where it's like...
Stocks are rising, unemployment is near historic lows, including for Latinos and African Americans.
It's a good thing it wasn't a hub site.
You have all outlined plans, but you in particular that could end up raising taxes. How can you guarantee that won't hurt the economy?
Well,
First of all, there are a lot of Americans right now that are hurting. Just go and ask the folks that just received notice that they're going to get laid off by General Motors, or ask the many folks who are sleeping on the streets in big cities and small towns across the United States, or ask fast food workers that I joined a couple of weeks ago that are working for minimum wage and can't provide for their families or pay the rent. So the idea that America is doing just fine is wrong. Not only that, this president always likes to take credit, like he did this. We've now had about 105 straight months of positive job growth, the longest streak in American history.
Credit. It sounded like it
over
was
80 months of that was due to President Barack Obama. Thank you, Barack Obama. Thank you, Barack Obama.
Yeah, like
I believe that we need to invest in what will ensure that Americans can prosper in the years to come, making sure they have the knowledge and skills to compete in the 21st century economy, ensuring that they can afford the rent where they live, and that they have health care, so that they don't have to worry about going homeless because they can't afford a medical procedure.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. I want to turn now to a question about trade, and for Congresswoman Gabbard. Many saw the Trans-Pacific Partnership issue as something that would be a critical tool to deal with the rise of China. You were against it. How would you ensure that the United States is able to remain competitive against China on the world stage?
Like going pushing for fair trade, not trade deals that give away the sovereignty of the American people and our country, that give away American jobs, and that threaten our environment. These are the three main issues with that massive trade deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I think the central one was the fact that it gave away our sovereignty to a panel of international corporations whose rulings would supersede any domestic law that we would pass, either a federal law or a state or a local law. This is extremely dangerous and goes against the very values that we have as a country. What to speak of the fact that it would have a negative impact on domestic jobs and that it lacked clear protections for our environment. These are the things that we have to keep at the forefront as we look to enact fair trade deals with other countries to make sure that we continue to be a thriving part of our global economy.
So to be clear, Congresswoman, would you keep President Trump's tariffs on China in place?
I would not, because the approach that President Trump has taken has been extremely volatile without any clear strategic plan, and it has a ravaging and devastating effect on our domestic manufacturers, on our farmers who are already struggling and now failing to see the light of day because of the plan that Trump has taken.
Vice President Biden, would you rejoin the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which, of course, the President Trump withdrew from? Please respond.
I'd renegotiate it. We make up 25% of the world's economy.
More.
In order, either China is going to write the rules of the world for the 21st century on trade, or we are. We have to join with the 40% of the world that we had with us, and this time make sure that there's no one sitting at that table doing the deal unless environmentalists are there and labor is there. And to make sure we equip our workers first to compete by investing in them now, in the things to make them more competitive. That's what we have to do. Otherwise, they are going to write the rules of the road. We must have the rest of the world join us to keep them in check from abusing.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, just to be clear, would you or would you not rejoin the TPP, yes or no?
I would not rejoin the TPP as it was initially put forward. I would insist that we renegotiate pieces of that with the Pacific nations that we had in South America and North America, so that we could bring them together to hold China accountable for the rules of us setting the rules of the road as to how trade should be conducted. Otherwise, they're going to do exactly what they're doing, fill the vacuum and run the table.
Thank you, sir. Mayor de Blasio, you also oppose the deal. Please respond.
Yeah, and I would just want to ask this question of all the candidates, but particularly of Vice President Biden. President Trump is trying to sell NAFTA 2.0. He's got a new name for it. It's just as dangerous as the old NAFTA. It's going to take away American jobs like the old NAFTA, like it did to Michigan. And we cannot have Democrats be party to a new NAFTA. So, Vice President, I believe you're the only person on the stage who voted for the original NAFTA. Are you ready to say here and now that you will oppose a new NAFTA, and that what you will believe in, which a lot of us hope for, is trade treaties that empower organized labor across the boundaries of the world and give working people power again, not just multinational corporations?
Yes.
Your response? Your response, sir?
Yes.
That's it?
No, he said, would I insist that labor be engaged. The answer is yes.
I consider that a victory.
Well, I love your affection for me. You spent a lot of time with me.
You know what?
Oh my God.
We believe in redemption, Joe. We believe in redemption in this party.
Well, I tell you what, I hope you're part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask a question of Senator Bennett now. Senator, CNN reached out to Michigan Democratic primary voters for their most pressing question. Ferris from Flint, Michigan, has this question. Here in Detroit, our economy has seen firsthand how technology and automation can displace workers and create uncertainty around human job security. How would you balance these disruptions created by technology with the beneficial impact of technology on our economy?
It's almost as bad as Hillary Clinton.
The last question you asked as well, which is how are we going to remain competitive?
That cackle
It's not just about trade, which we were talking about earlier. It's about whether we're going to invest in this country anymore. Since 2001, we have cut $5 trillion worth of taxes. Almost all of that has gone to the wealthiest people in America. We have made the income inequality worse, not better, through the policies of the federal government. We've spent $5.6 trillion in the Middle East. That's 12 or 13 trillion dollars that, from the point of view of driving the economy in Michigan or anywhere else in America, we might as well just have lit that money on fire. We've got to stop doing that. And we need to invest in America again. For the money that we've spent that I just described, we could have fixed every road and bridge in this country. We could have fixed every airport that needs to be fixed. We could have fixed not just Flint, but every water system in this country. We could have made Social Security solvent for my children.
Thank you, Senator.
But we did none of it because of self-serving politicians in Washington, D.C., who voted for deals that were good for them,
Senator Bennett,
but
thank
not
you
for
very
Michigan
much.
or the American
Your time is up,
people.
sir.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Yang. Mr. Yang, women on average earn 80 cents, about 80 cents for every dollar earned by men. Senator Harris wants to fine companies that don't close their gender pay gaps. As an entrepreneur, do you think a stiff fine will change how companies pay their female employees?
I have seen firsthand the inequities in the business world where women are concerned, particularly in startups and entrepreneurship. We have to do more at every step. And if you're a woman entrepreneur, the obstacles start not just at home, but then when you seek a mentor or an investor, often they don't look like you, and they might not think your idea is the right one. In order to give women a leg up, what we have to do is we have to think about women in every situation, including the ones who are in exploitative and abusive jobs and relationships around the country. I'm talking about the waitress who's getting harassed by her boss at the diner, who might have a business idea, but right now is stuck where she is. What we have to do is we have to give women the economic freedom to be able to improve their own situations and start businesses. And the best way to do this is by putting a dividend of $1,000 a month into their hands. It would be a game changer for women around the country, because we know that women do more of the unrecognized and uncompensated work in our society. It will not change unless we change it. And I say that's just what we do.
Senator Harris, your response.
At least with Inslee being a one-issue candidate, his one issue is climate
when we passed the Equal Pay Act, we have been talking about the fact women are not paid equally for equal work. Fast forward to the year of our Lord 2019, and women are paid 80 cents on the dollar, Black women 61 cents, Native American women 58 cents, Latinas 53 cents. I'm done with the conversation. So yes, I am proposing, in order to deal with this, one, I'm going to require corporations to post on their website whether they are paying women equally for equal work. Two, they will be fined
yesterday and today
for every 1% differential between what they are paying men and women. They will be fined 1% of their previous year's profits. That'll get everybody's attention.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Gillibrand. Senator Gillibrand, what's your response? Will finding companies help solve the problem?
Of women. That was really important.
I think we have to have a broader conversation about whether we value women and whether we want to make sure women have every opportunity in the workplace. And I want to address Vice President Biden directly. When the Senate was debating middle-class affordability for childcare, he wrote an op-ed. He voted against it, the only vote. But what he wrote in an op-ed was that he believed that women working outside the home would, quote, create the deterioration of family. He also said that women who were working outside the home were, quote, avoiding responsibility. And I just need to understand, as a woman who's worked my entire career as the primary wage earner, as the primary caregiver. In fact, my second son, Henry, is here. And I had him when I was a member of Congress. So under Vice President Biden's analysis, am I serving in Congress resulting in the deterioration of the family because I had access to quality, affordable daycare? I just want to know what he meant when he said that.
That was a long time ago, and here's what it was about. It would have given people making today $100,000 a year a tax break for childcare. I did not want that. I wanted the childcare to go to people making less than $100,000, and that's what it was about. As a single father, who in fact raised 3 children for 5 years by myself, I have some idea what it costs. I support making sure that every single solitary person needing childcare get an $8,000 tax credit now. That would put 700,000 women back to work, increase the GDP by almost 0.8%. It's the right thing to do. If we can give tax breaks to corporations for these things, why can't we do it this way?
But Mr. Vice President, you didn't answer my question. What did you mean when you said when a woman works outside the home, it's resulting in, quote, the deterioration of family?
No,
that we are avoiding, these are quotes, it was the title of the op-ed. No. And that just causes concern for me because we know America's women are working. 4 out of 10 moms have to work. They're the primary or sole wage earners. They actually have to put food on the table. 8 out of 10 moms are working today. Most women have to work to provide for their kids. Many women want to be working to provide for their communities and to help people.
Let the Vice President
either you don't believe it today, or what did you mean when you said it then?
In the very beginning, my deceased wife worked, but we had children. My present wife has worked all the way through raising our children. The fact of the matter is, the situation is one that I don't know what's happened. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act. Lily Ledbetter. I was deeply involved in making sure
2 of your 3 kids are dead.
I was deeply involved in all these things.
That's not a success.
It's on us proposal to see to it that women were treated more decently on college campuses.
I'm not sexist.
You
One of my wives died.
To Syracuse University with me and said it was wonderful. I'm passionate about the concern, making sure women are treated equally. I don't know what's happened except that you're now running for president.
So I understand, Mr. Vice President, I respect you deeply. I respect you deeply. But those words
Look,
are
Marcus,
very
I'm sorry, but like,
specific.
you know, if somebody's going to brag
women
about how
working outside the
successful
home
they
would
are
lead
as
to
a dad,
deterioration of
and like,
family. My
they have
grandmother
a
worked
2
outside the
out
home.
of 3 track
My
record.
mother worked outside the home. And
thank you,
kind
Senator.
of the bare minimum of being a parent.
Either he no longer believes it. I mean, I just think he
I
needs
never
to.
believed it.
We don't know about
Senator
Biden's
Harris,
family.
please respond.
He could be
Well,
doing
I
the entire,
just,
like 10 kids.
listen, I mean, talk about now running for president and you change your position. On the Hyde Amendment, Vice President, where you made a decision for years to withhold resources to poor women to have access to reproductive health care, and including women who were the victims of rape and incest. Do you now say that you have evolved and you regret that? Because you've only, since you've been running for president this time,
Obama
that
offered to pay
in some
Biden
way
for
would
his
take that
son's
back, or you
medical
didn't agree with the
treatment.
decision that
And
you
guess
made
who
over
refused
many
to?
years. And this directly impacted
Joe Biden.
so many women in our country. And I personally prosecuted rape cases and child molestation cases. And the experience that those women have, those children have, and that they would then be denied the resources,
Senator. Let the Vice President respond,
I think is
please.
unacceptable.
Kind of soured over the years.
The fact is that the senator knows that's not my position. Everybody on the stage has been in the Congress, and the Senate or House has voted for the Hyde Amendment at some point. The Hyde Amendment in the past was available because there was other access for those kinds of services provided privately. But once I wrote the legislation making sure that every single woman would in fact have an opportunity to have health care paid for by the federal government, everyone.
You still supported the Hyde Amendment until like
I support
a month
a woman's right
ago.
to choose. I support it's a constitutional right. I've supported it. I will continue to support it. And I will in fact move as president to see to that the Congress legislates that is the law as well.
Well, why did it take you so long to change your position on the Hyde Amendment? Why did it take so long until you were running for president to change your position on the Hyde Amendment?
Because there was not full federal funding for all reproductive services prior to this point.
Okay. Thank you. Governor Inslee, your response?
I
That's
would
not an answer.
suggest that we need to broaden our discussion. I would suggest we need to think about a bigger scandal in America, which is that in professions and careers where women have been more than the majority, they have been almost always underpaid. And that is why this year I'm proud to be the governor who won the largest pay increase for our educators in the United States. And I believe that that is long, long overdue. I think it is true for nursing staff as well. And I'm glad that we've now passed new measures. And I'm glad that we've increased our union membership 10% so
Governor.
unions can
Thank you,
stand
Governor
up for
Inslee.
women
I want
as
to
well.
turn to foreign policy, if we can. Senator Booker, there are about 14,000 U.S. service members in Afghanistan right now. If elected, will they still be in Afghanistan by the end of your first year in office?
Well, first of all, I want to say very clearly that I will not do foreign policy like tweet as Donald Trump seems to
crazy,
do.
or is that just an oddly specific question?
Literally tweets out that we're pulling our troops out before his generals even know about it, is creating a dangerous situation for our troops in places like Afghanistan.
Trump said this, you said
and
this.
so I
How do
will
we know you're
bring
not going to lie
our
like
troops
Trump
home, and I will bring them
from the
home
previous
as
debate?
quickly as possible. But I will not set during a campaign an artificial deadline. I will make sure we do it expeditiously, we do it safely, to not create a vacuum that's ultimately going to destabilize the Middle East and perhaps create the environment for terrorism and for extremism to threaten our nation.
Congresswoman, you're the only veteran on the stage. Please respond.
This is real in a way that's very difficult to convey in words. I was deployed to Iraq in 2005 during the height of the war, where I served in a field medical unit where every single day I saw the high cost of war. Just this past week, 2 more of our soldiers were killed in Afghanistan. My cousin is deployed to Afghanistan right now. Nearly 300 of our Hawaii National Guard soldiers are deployed to Afghanistan. 14,000 service members are deployed there. This is not about arbitrary deadlines. This is about leadership. The leadership I will bring to do the right thing, to bring our troops home within the first year in office, because they shouldn't have been there this long. For too long, we've had leaders who have been arbitrating foreign policy from ivory towers in Washington without any idea about the cost and the consequence, the toll that it takes on our service members, on their families. We have to do the right thing, end these wasteful regime change wars, and bring our troops home.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Mr. Yang, Iran has now breached the terms of the 2015 nuclear deal after President Trump withdrew the deal. And that puts Iran closer to building a nuclear weapon, the ability to do so at the very least. You said if Iran violates the agreement, the U.S. would need to respond, quote, very strongly. So how would a President Yang respond right now?
We give every Iranian $1,000.
Tensions in Iran because they're responding to the fact that we pulled out of this agreement. And it wasn't just us in Iran. There were many other world powers that were part of that multilateral agreement. We'd have to try and re-enter that agreement, renegotiate the timelines, because the timelines now don't make as much sense. But I've signed a pledge to end the forever wars. Right now, our strength abroad reflects our strength at home. What's happened, really? We've fallen apart at home, so we elected Donald Trump, and now we have this erratic and unpredictable relationship with even our long-standing partners and allies. What we have to do is we have to start investing those resources to solve the problems right here at home.
Well, we don't have.
We've spent trillions of dollars and lost thousands of American lives in conflicts that had unclear benefits. We've been in a constant state of war for 18 years. This is not what the American people want. I would bring the troops home, I would de-escalate tensions with Iran, and I would start investing our resources in our own communities.
Governor Inslee, your response?
Well, I think that these are matters of great and often difficult judgment, and there is no sort of primer for presidents to read. We have to determine whether a potential president has adequate judgment in these decisions. I was only one of 2 members on this panel today who were called to make a judgment about the Iraq War. I was a relatively new member of Congress, and I made the right judgment because it was obvious to me that George Bush was fanning the flames of war. Now we face similar situations where we recognize we have a president who'd be willing to beat the drums of war. We need a president who can stand up against the drums of war and make rational decisions. That was the right vote, and I believe it.
Thank you, Governor. Vice President Biden, he was obviously suggesting that you made the wrong decision and had bad judgment when you voted to go to war in Iraq as a U.S. Senator.
I did make a bad judgment trusting the president saying he was only doing this to get inspectors in and get the UN to agree to put inspectors in. From the moment shock and awe started, from that moment, I was opposed to the effort, and I was outspoken as much as anyone at all in the Congress and administration. Secondly, I was asked by the president in the first meeting we had on Iraq to turn and say, Joe, get our combat troops out in front of the entire national security team. One of the proudest moments of my life was to stand there in Afua Palace and tell everyone that we're coming, all our combat troops are coming home. I opposed the surge in Afghanistan. This long overdue, we should have not, in fact, gone into Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I want to bring in, I would like to bring in the person on the stage who served in Iraq, Congresswoman Gabbard. Your response to what Vice President Biden just said.
We were all lied to. This is the betrayal. This is the betrayal to the American people, to me, to my fellow service members. We were all lied to, told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, was working with Al-Qaeda, and that this posed a threat to the American people. So I enlisted after 9/11 to protect our country, to go after those who attacked us on that fateful day, who took the lives of thousands of Americans. The problem is that this current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after Al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after Al-Qaeda, who is stronger today than they were in 9/11, our president is supporting Al-Qaeda.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Let's talk about
Iran.
Thank you, please.
We didn't talk about Iran
Please.
because we're on a march to war in Iran right now, and we blew
Please,
by it.
Mayor, the rules. Please follow the rules.
I respect the rules, but
Mayor,
we have to
Mayor,
stop
thank you
this
very
march
much.
to war in Iran.
We're
and the
going on,
Democrat
and we're going
Party
to talk
has
about another
stand up.
subject.
God, I wish he would just be like, fuck the rules and
Let's talk
fuck
about
you.
former Special Counsel Robert Mueller's appearance in front of Congress last week. When asked whether or not the president could be charged with a crime after leaving office, his answer was yes. Senator Harris, you've criticized President Trump for interfering with the Justice Department. And just last month, you said if you were elected president, your Justice Department would, quote, have no choice and should go forward with the obstruction of justice charges against former President Trump. Why is it okay for you to advocate for the Justice Department to prosecute somebody, but President Trump, not him?
Well, I would never direct the Department of Justice to do whatever it believes it should do. But listen, look, we all watched his testimony. I read the report. There are 10 clear incidents of obstruction of justice by this president, and he needs to be held accountable. I've seen people go to prison for far less. And the reality of it is that we have a person in the White House right now who has been shielded by a memo in the United States Department of Justice that says the sitting president cannot be indicted. I believe the American people are right to say there should be consequence and accountability for everyone, and no one is above the law, including the president of the United States.
Senator Booker, your response?
My response is exactly that. I've read the report. I've read the redacted versions of the report. We have something that is astonishing going on in the United States of America. We have a president that is not acting like the leader of the free world. He's acting like an authoritarian against the actual Constitution that he swore an oath to uphold. And so this is a difference with a lot of us on this debate stage. I believe that we in the United States Congress should start impeachment proceedings immediately. And I'll tell you this, Debbie Stabenow now has joined my call for starting impeachment proceedings because he is now stonewalling Congress, not allowing, they were subjecting themselves to the checks and balances. We swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. The politics of this be damned. When we look back in history at what happened when a president of the United States started acting more like an authoritarian leader than the leader of the free world, the question is what will we have done? And I believe the Congress should do its job.
Senator Booker, thank you very much. Secretary Castro, what's your response?
Well, I agree.
Good thing this debate only has 8 minutes left because I literally went through an entire fucking pack of cigarettes.
That Robert Mueller has pointed out where this president either obstructed justice or attempted to obstruct justice. And I believe that they should go forward with impeachment proceedings. As to the question of what my Department of Justice would do, I agree with those who say that a president should not direct an attorney general specifically to prosecute or not prosecute. However, I believe that the evidence is plain and clear, and that if it gets that far, that you're likely to see a prosecution of Donald Trump.
Thank you, Secretary. Mayor de Blasio, I'm going to bring you in. What's your response?
I think it's obvious at this point in our history.
I smoke almost as much as an anime producer.
But I want to caution my fellow Democrats, while we move every way we can for impeachment, we have to remember at the same time, the American people are out there looking for us to do something for them in their lives. And what they see when they turn on the TV or go online is
like live hard, die
talk
ugly.
about impeachment. We need more talk about working people and their lives. For example, are we really ready? And I ask people on the stage this question. Are we ready to make sure that the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes? That's something every American wants to know about. That's something they want answers to right now. So yeah, move for impeachment, but don't forget to do the people's business and to stand up for working people, because that's how we're actually going to beat Donald Trump. The best impeachment is beating him in the election of 2020.
Mayor, thank you very much. Senator Bennett, how do you respond to this conversation?
I think, look, as we go forward here, we need to recognize a very practical reality, which is that we are 4 months away. We've got the August.
You know what's even funnier about
then we are 4 months away from
the Millennium Challenge.
And I just want to make sure whatever we do doesn't end up with an acquittal by Mitch McConnell.
They made them rerun it, and they told the red team they couldn't do any of the things that they did.
That he had been acquitted by the United States Congress. I believe we have a moral obligation to beat Donald Trump. He has to be a single-term president, and we can't do anything that plays into his hands. We were talking earlier about climate up here. It's so important. Donald Trump should be the last climate denier that's ever in the White House.
Senator Bennett, thank you very much. Secretary Castro, please respond.
But we need to be smart about how we're running, or we're going to give him a second term. We can't do it.
Let me first say that I really do believe that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. All of us have a vision for the future of the country that we're articulating to the American people. We're going to continue to do that. We have an election coming up. At the same time, Senator, I think that too many folks in the Senate and in the Congress have been spooked by 1998. I believe that the times are different. And in fact, I think that folks are making a mistake by not pursuing impeachment. The Mueller report clearly details that he deserves it. And what's going to happen in the fall of next year of 2020, if they don't impeach him, is he's going to say, you see,
I just don't remember him sounding like a Muppet.
The Democrats didn't go after me on impeachment. And you know why?
No, I know.
Because I didn't do anything wrong. These folks that always investigate me, they're always trying to go after me. When it came down to it, they didn't go after me there because I didn't do anything wrong. Conversely, if Mitch McConnell is the one that lets him off the hook, we're going to be able to say, well, sure, they impeached him in the House, but his friend Mitch McConnell, Moscow Mitch, let him off the hook.
Senator Bennett, please respond.
Moscow Mitch.
I don't disagree with that. You just said it better than I did. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time. It is incredibly unusual for members of Congress to be able to do that. And I'm glad that Secretary Castro has the ambition.
My brother can. He's here
That's
tonight.
What I was going to say. It's your brother that's giving you that good feeling about the Congress. That's what we should do.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, gentlemen. The debate continues right after this.
How is this continuing? Oh my God, are they not done yet?
They're done. Like next is going to be the final report.
They need to suck more life force out of the audience here.
I've got two Muppets last night with now I can't remember his name, the Montanan guy. I think the Montanan guy and then the Iowan guy, or was it I can't remember. Like one was Kermit the Frog and one was, oh my God, kill me now, essentially.
I think one of them was Tim Ryan, you mean?
Yes.
So Tim Ryan was probably Kermit, and the guy from Montana you're thinking of is Bullock?
Yes, Bullock.
The psycho?
Yeah, no, here's the thing. Okay, so about the Montanan guy, I have a friend from Montana, and she was saying, she's like, because she asked me, she's like, well, how is the former governor, I think he was, from Montana doing? And I was like, he's doing terribly. He's awful. Oh my God, he's out of his depth. And she's like, oh, that's really sad. Apparently my sister had drinks with him and he's really super duper nice. I'm like, he may be an incredibly nice person, but he is a terrible politician.
Well, he's fucking psychotic in the foreign policy, like the foreign fucking policy department. The entire, America should reserve the right to fucking first strike pretty much anything is fucking ridiculous.
So he was the guy with the fucking nuclear thing?
Yeah. That's
fucking hell.
But
Yeah,
but
the
that's
one that,
very
like,
Montanan. That's a very Montanan stance to take. Like, look at Montana.
Yeah, it's a fucking piece of preserved land for the fucking United States.
That said, okay, so Amy Klobuchar was yesterday, and she kept talking, and I'm like, as a Minnesotan, I'm probably one of the few people watching, because I'm sure not a lot of Minnesotans care, because it's like, oh, the Dems gonna win, who cares? But like, listening to Amy Klobuchar talk was so excruciating, because I'm like, bitch, seriously, you think Wi-Fi gives people cancer? You're not qualified. And I know this because
I'll be honest,
when she was running.
Abby, last night I said, like, out of all of the people on the stage last night, she's the one who needs to really drop out. Mainly because she has, like, somewhat decent poll numbers compared to the rest of the losers.
Well, the thing is, she will definitely drop out. I'm sure it's some of the things she talks about. Like, she's Democratic farmer labor, which she has a lot to say about the farmers, and that's probably what she was, in the debates for. And she actually made some good points for the farmers, and that's essentially what she was there for, to talk about the farmers. She did a good job. Go home. The rest of everything, having been
just
a
like
person to read.
After this debate, Inslee should drop out because it's like, you did your job. You got people to talk about climate change.
Exactly. Like, having been a person who has had to read the things she says about, like, things other than farmers, I'm like, I can't vote for you. I literally can't vote for you. But you know what else? I can't vote for anybody else. I don't know what to do.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic presidential debate. It is time now for closing statements. You will each receive 1 minute. Mayor de Blasio, let's begin with you.
Thank you. For the last 3 years, we've watched Donald Trump pit working people against each other, black versus white, citizen versus immigrant. And why? So that the wealthy and the powerful he represents can hold the American dream hostage from everyone else. We can't let them get away with it. If we're going to beat Donald Trump, this has to be a party that stands for something. This has to be the party of labor unions. This has to be the party of universal health care. This has to be the party that's not afraid to say out loud, we're going to tax the hell out of the wealthy. And when we do that, Donald Trump, right on cue, will call us socialists. Well, here's what I'll say to him. Donald, you're the real socialist. The problem is, it's socialism for the rich.
What?
We, here in this country, we don't have to take it anymore. We can fight back. If you agree that we can stand up to Donald Trump, we can stand up to the wealthy, then
congratulations, Blasio. You're taking the retard count away from Blaney.
That puts working people
my
first.
feet fucked up. What did he say?
Senator Bennett?
Thank you.
He called Trump the
Thank you
real
very
socialist.
much. What I want to say to all of you tonight is, we have been here before as a country. We have faced challenges that we've actually even forget, some of us tonight, how hard the people fought, how hard they worked, how hard they organized, the votes they had to take, the people they had to get to the polls to make this country more democratic, more fair, and more free. And now we have a person in the White House who has no appreciation of that history, who doesn't believe in the rule of law, who doesn't believe in the independence of the judiciary, who doesn't believe that climate change is real. I think that we have an incredible opportunity in front of us.
We need to blow up the Earth to build a giant space highway, and so I can see Venus
face
from
challenges
Mars.
even harder than the ones that we face. But the only way we're going to be able to do it is to put the divisive politics of Donald Trump
Also, we
behind us,
need to
and the
arrest that
divisive politics of
dastardly
the last
duck
10 years
Dodgers.
behind us. We need to come together, united against a broken
Jesus,
Washington.
he's still talking.
Make Donald
Felt
Trump
like
a
an
one-term
hour.
president and begin to govern this country again for our kids and our grandkids who cannot do it for themselves. We have to do it for them. Please join me at michaelbennett.com. Thanks for being here tonight.
Governor Inslee.
He's trapped in an eternal curse of being in a Lawson
decades,
commercial.
we have kicked the can down the road on climate change. And now under Donald Trump, we face a looming catastrophe. But it is not too late. We have one last chance. And when you have one chance in life, you take it. Think about this. Literally, the survival of humanity on this planet and civilization as we know it is in the hands of the next president. And we have to have a leader who will do what is necessary to save us. And that includes making this the top priority of the next presidency. And I alone on this panel am making a commitment that this will be the organizing principle of my administration, not the first day, but every day.
As useless as a screen door on a submarine.
My view of the urgency of this matter, I hope you'll join me.
You know the funny part is,
we are up
I still
against
haven't actually able
powerful
to source
special
that
fossil
fucking
fuel interests, and it is time to stand up on our legs and confront the fossil fuel special interests.
Like, I can't actually
because
get
that
where
is
it
our
comes from.
salvation, what it depends upon.
I mean, that's the problem with like
So
a
I
lot
hope
of
you will
racist
consider
jokes. They
going
just
to
kind of
JMZ.com and joining this effort. And
Well,
I will
see, the
close
thing
with
is,
this. I am
It's so
confident
stupid. I think there's
and
a kernel of
optimistic
truth to
tonight,
it.
even in the face of this difficulty.
If that makes sense.
Because I know we can
Like, I could
build a
totally
clean
see
energy
submarines
economy.
having like a net
I know
or
we
some type of
can
like
save our
open,
children and our
open from the
grandchildren.
main hatch
I
to
know
keep birds
that
out or
we
something while
can defeat
patrolling.
climate change, and we will
Because
defeat
boats
Donald
did
Trump.
that before.
This is our moral responsibility, and we will fulfill it. Thank you very much.
Senator Gillibrand.
Donald Trump has really torn apart the moral fabric of this country, dividing us on every racial line, every religious line, every socioeconomic line he can find. I'm running for president because I want to help people. And I actually have the experience and the ability to do that. I brought Congress together and actually made a difference in people's lives. I also know how to beat Donald Trump. He has broken his promises to the American people.
You know what, Nish? That reminds me of the Cyanide and Happiness cartoon where the little kids are making the bears that are frowny, and they're like, "What does it smell?"
Doesn't matter
And the
who
guy
you
running
are.
in the factory
Doesn't
just
matter
turns them upside
where
down.
you live. It doesn't matter who you love, because that's my responsibility. And I've done this before. I started out in a 2-to-1 Republican district. I won it twice. I've never lost an election since. And I not only bring people together electorally, but also legislatively. I get things done. So we need a president who's not afraid of the big challenges, of the big fights. There is no false choice. We don't need a liberal or progressive with big ideas, or we don't need a moderate who can win back Trump, Obama voters. You need someone who can do both. And that's who I am. Please go to KirstenGillibrand.com so I can make the next debate stage.
Congresswoman Gabbard.
It kind of means that you can't distract.
Thank you. No, Donald Trump and warmongering politicians in Washington have failed us. They continue to escalate tensions with other nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China and North Korea, starting a new Cold War, pushing us closer and closer to the brink of nuclear catastrophe. Now, as we stand here tonight, there are thousands of nuclear missiles pointed at us. And if we were to get an attack right here tonight, we would have 30 minutes before we were hit. And you would receive an alert like the one we received in Hawaii last year that would say, incoming missiles.
Holy shit, that was only last year?
This is not a drill.
God damn, time moves slow now.
Shelter. This is not a drill. And you would see, as we did, as my loved ones in Hawaii did, there is no shelter. This is the warmongers' hoax. There is no shelter. It's all a lie. As president, I will end this insanity because it doesn't have to be this way. I will end these wasteful regime change wars, work to end this new Cold War through the use of diplomacy to de-escalate these tensions and take the trillions of dollars that we've been wasting on these wars and on these weapons and redirect those resources into serving the needs of our people right here at home. Things like healthcare for all, making sure everyone in this country has clean water to drink and clean air to breathe, investing in education, investing in our infrastructure. The needs are great. As your president, I will put your interests above all else.
Secretary Castro.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you to you, Jake, Dana, and to Don, and to everybody here, and to those watching. This election is all about what kind of nation we're going to become. You and I, we stand on the shoulders of folks who have made beds and made sacrifices, people that fought in wars and fought discrimination, folks that picked crops and stood in picket lines, and they helped build the wonderful nation that we live in today. Donald Trump has not been bashful in his cruelty, and I'm not going to be bashful in my common sense and compassion. I believe that we need leadership that understands that we need to move forward as one nation with one destiny. Our destiny in the years to come is to be the smartest, the healthiest, the fairest, and the most prosperous nation on earth. If you want to help me build that America for the future, I hope you'll go to JulianCastro.com, and on January 20th, 2021, we'll say together.
Why are these fuckers plugging their websites like they're hack comedians?
Mr. Yang?
Which, by the way,
you know what the talking
links to
heads
the
couldn't stop
podcast
talking about
and
after
a very
the last
public
debate?
spanking in the
Not
description
the fact that I'm
and the
somehow number 4
Discord.
on the stage in national polling. It was the fact that I wasn't wearing a tie. Instead of talking about automation in our
Matt tries to
future,
play it
including
off
the
like it
fact
was
that we
a very
automated
clever
away 4 million manufacturing
It
jobs,
wasn't.
hundreds of thousands right here in Michigan. We're up here with makeup on our faces and our rehearsed attack lines, playing roles in this reality TV show. It's one reason why we elected a reality TV star as our president. We need to be laser focused on solving the real challenges of today, like the fact that the most common jobs in America may not exist in a decade, or that most Americans cannot pay their bills. My flagship proposal, the Freedom Dividend, would put $1,000 a month into the hands of every American adult, be a game changer for millions of American families. If you care more about your family and your kids than my neckwear, enter your zip code at yang2020.com and see what $1,000 a month would mean to your community. I have done the math. It's not left. It's not right. It's forward. And that is how we're going to beat Donald Trump in 2020.
Senator Booker.
Thank you. First, I just want to give a lot of thanks to the city of Detroit. They're hosting us today, and one of the reasons I respect this city is because it has the kind of defiant love that I find in many American cities, including the city of Newark. And Detroit is turning around, and Newark is turning around because we let no one divide us, no one demean or degrade us or underestimate our worth. We pulled together and fought for common purpose and common cause. That's the history of this city. My mom is sitting there, who was born in the city of Detroit, born to a guy that was a UAW worker, my grandfather, who pulled his family out of poverty in the Depression. My grandmother joined him. She was really entrepreneurial, opened a pool hall and a laundromat right here in this city. That is the American dream. And so many of us have stories like that. But the dream of this country is under threat right now. Well, my mom's generation, 95% of baby boomers did better than their parents. It's now just a coin toss for millennials. We have a real crisis in our country, and the crisis is Donald Trump, but not only Donald Trump. I have a frustration that sometimes people are saying the only thing they want is to beat Donald Trump. Well, that is the floor and not the ceiling. The way we beat Donald Trump is not just focusing on him. He wants to take all the oxygen out of the room. It's when we start focusing on each other and understanding that our common bonds and our common purpose to address our pain is what has saved us before. It's what's going to save us now. That is the kind of leader I am going to be as president of the United States. Not even Democratic, more indivisible, Democratic Party, this one nation under God. And if you believe like I do,
God, this is the
CoryBooker.com and join the mission.
I know, right?
How do you not get cut off? Oh my God, shut up.
So in my background as Attorney General of California, I took on the big banks.
I took on minorities and immigrant parents.
People and sure I got free labor from them. for a longer period of time because I did not want to pay actual free labor or people who were free citizens.
We have a predator living in the White House.
And I wanted to make it as difficult as possible for those folks to get good jobs after they were out of incarceration.
And predatory instincts. And the thing about predators is this. By their very nature,
they work in the law enforcement.
They're super and they wear hoodies.
They perceive to be vulnerable.
They wield Arizona tea and Skittles.
Often desperate.
They sell loose cigarettes on the side of streets. I can keep going.
Is someone who is going to be on that debate stage with Donald Trump and defeat him by being able to prosecute the case against 4 more years. And let me tell you, we've got a long rap sheet. We're looking at someone who passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations in this country when he said he would help working families. We've got a person who has put
You're not
a friend of working families.
For their parents.
I would be curious to see how many times Biden did mention Obama this debate. That's one statistic I'm really interested in.
No.
So
that
we
depends on how they
must
count it, though.
defeat him, and then in turning the page, write the next chapter for our country.
I'd like to see both.
To be
the only reason why I bring
in a
that
way
up
that
is
recognizes
he
what
was
wakes
confusing
people
me
up at
because
3
he kept
o'clock in the
saying,
morning, and
and
that is
he
my
did this,
agenda.
and he
The
did that.
3
I'm like,
a.m.
what the
agenda
fuck
that
is
is
he
focused
referring
on
to? 'Cause I
getting
didn't hear
folks
the
the
beginning
jobs
part.
they need, getting their children the education they need, making sure they have the health care they need, and the future they deserve. So please join me at KamalaHarris.org, and I thank you for your time.
Please join me
in about 2 weeks.
Please go to my website, www.bluelivesmatter.com.
Sorry, listen, look, I've said it many times. I think everyone agrees with this. We're in a battle for the soul of America. This is the most consequential election any one of you.
Did he age like 20 years in the past 2 minutes? Jesus Christ.
4 more years of Donald Trump will go down as an aberration. Hard to overcome the damage he's done,
Look, it's
but we can
past
overcome
10. It's way past Joe's bitty bye.
in a fundamental way. The America we know will no longer exist. Everybody knows who Donald Trump is. We have to let him know who we are. We choose science over fiction.
Why do you think
We
he touches
choose
women the way
hope
he does?
over fear. We choose unity over division. And we choose the idea that we can, as Americans, when we act together, do anything. This is the United States of America. We've acted
Except
together.
universal health care, apparently.
Never been unable to overcome whatever the problem
Obamacare.
was. If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you very much.
Wait, that's his website?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And stay with
He forgot
CNN
the password,
for special
Joe Biden.
coverage of
No, that was his password.
And Chris Cuomo coming up. Netflix right now.
Night 2, the CNN Democratic debate here in Detroit. Once again, anyone wanting to know what separates Democrats from Donald Trump and what separates those Democrats on that stage from each other, certainly got
Oh
plenty
my
of votes
God, I
tonight
think Joe Biden fucked up his website.
on a number of subjects.
That wouldn't surprise me at the least. I've like, what the hell was that? 3030. What was that?
I'm Joe Biden, and I don't know how websites work.
Oh my God!
Please join me, Joe.
On me, kid.
530.
Not in the least,
He
and not
did.
just with
His
her.
website's supposed to be Joe 2020.
Responsibility after the last debate. Senator Harris, Senator
My site is www.trumpisthewinner.com. Oh wait, I mean www. Trump is not doing. I screwed that up.
Anyway, my timer's up.
Oh wait, I'm getting more time from CNN. Strange how that works.
Oh my God, I can't believe. I was gonna say last statements, but like, there's no better one to end on that. Joe Biden fucked up his own website.
I don't know how the newfangled 30-year-old websites work. www.website.w.
Yeah, but so thanks everybody.
His website is joebiden.com. What the hell was that?
My God, Matt, he might have had the stroke at the last minute.
He might have.
Oh my God. So we've had Comrade Tumor. What would this be?
No. That was Comrade Tumor.
Right, I know, but what's the name of this stroke? What's?
No. That wasn't a stroke. That was Comrade Tumor. He finally intercepted.
He's back. Gotcha.
He finally got in.
Yes, my website is hugsfrombehind.com.
Biden's wanting to know why he just smelt toast out of nowhere and fucking everything turned green.
Why do I taste pennies?
Oh no.
Is it kind of sad to every time like Matt brings up like Uncle Whiskey Breath or whatever, Joe Biden's actually a good like his face to put on that?
Yeah.
So I call it Unky Joby. Unky Joby, Joe Biden, Unky Joby.
Mm-hmm.
I see him just as the grossest guy who comes into a Target and it's like, "Oh, you're my favorite cashier," and comes and gives you a behind hug. Awful.
Yeah. Yeah, Uncle Bad Touch.
So, thanks everybody for showing up. Especially double thanks to you, Skull, for being the audio-visual monkey. I guess just visual audio monkey.
Well, yeah, we didn't do visual because holy shit.
Get banned.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Al Sharpton's looking old.
God damn, I don't know how to end this. I'm just gonna end it. But the fucking Joe Biden thing just thrown me for a loop.